Every business you've ever interacted with has one goal: extract value from you. Why do vending machines make billions while most apps are free? Why do coffee shops lose money on coffee but still profit? Why do airlines charge $9 for a seat and $90 for a bag? Behind every product you touch is a business model, a strategy designed to extract value from your time, habits, desires, even your emotions. In this video, we'll break down 100 real business models, from bartering to bundling, dropshipping to dynamic pricing, renting by the hour, selling your data, locking you into ecosystems, and even monetizing your existence itself. You'll never look at shopping, apps, subscriptions, or even your own choices the same way again. Let's begin. Bundling products. At first glance, bundling looks generous. You get more things, more features, more value, all in one package. It feels like a deal. But that feeling is exactly the point. Bundling isn't about value, it's about perception. Cable companies did it first. You wanted a few channels, they gave you 200, you only watched 6, but you paid for all of them. And because it felt like a lot, it didn't feel like a ripoff. That logic now runs through every industry. Buy one, get the second at 50% off. All-in-one subscription packages. Software suites that come with 10 tools, even if you only use one. Streaming platforms that bundle content you didn't ask for. But here's the mind-twisting part. Bundling isn't designed to make you spend less. It's designed to make you stop comparing. Because once the product is no longer just the thing you wanted, you can't easily measure what it's worth. How do you put a price on a package when it has parts you didn't ask for? How do you argue value when you got more? This is where pricing psychology kicks in. The business distracts you with quantity, so you won't notice how much they just raised the price. Even worse, it makes you feel wasteful if you don't buy it. You're already paying $10, why not pay $13 and get everything? Now the baseline has moved. You've been nudged, not forced into spending more. And once bundling becomes the norm, companies can sneak in less valuable products inside more attractive ones, and you'll pay for them anyway because they're part of the deal. The truth is, bundling is not about giving you more. It's about making you feel like you're saving, so you'll stop thinking, stop comparing, and start subscribing. And the moment that happens, you're no longer buying a product, you're buying a feeling. Unbundling microtransactions. If bundling is the art of hiding price behind more, unbundling is the opposite. Take something that used to come as a whole and start charging for each piece separately. Airlines mastered this. You bought a plane ticket and thought that meant everything was included. You pay for baggage. You pay to choose a seat. You pay to board early. You even pay to print your ticket at the airport. Same flight, same seat. But now, broken into fragments, each with its own price tag. That's unbundling. And it's spreading everywhere. Restaurants charge for condiments. Software splits off premium features. Streaming services start offering ad-free tiers, download access, or extra profiles for a fee. At first, it looks like customization. You only pay for what you use. It feels fair. But here's the trick. Unbundling turns expectations into opportunities. Anything the customer assumes should be included can now become an upsell. Anything that once felt like part of the experience becomes a new line item. It's not about value. It's about fragmentation. So you don't notice how much you're paying until it's too late to back out. Even worse? Once an industry starts unbundling, it becomes impossible to compare prices. Because now everyone charges for different pieces in different ways. The marketplace becomes a maze, and confusion becomes profit. This is how a $49 flight becomes $143. How a free app turns into $30 of microtransactions. How a basic service turns into an endless stream of optional upgrades. And once you're in deep, saying no feels like losing because they've taken what used to be standard and turned it into a privilege. The product didn't change. The billing strategy did. And now, you're not paying more for more. You're paying more just to get back to what you used to expect. Barter economy. Before money existed, before markets, before profit margins and quarterly reports, there was only one way to get what you needed. Trade something you had for something you didn't. You have firewood. I have eggs. You need warmth. I need breakfast. We trade. Done. No currency. No pricing. Just needs and resources. At its core, barter is pure value exchange. There's no abstraction layer. No hidden margin. No profit. Just one truth. Your thing is worth what I think it's worth. But this model has limits. What if I don't need firewood right now? What if your eggs will rot by tomorrow? What if we can't agree how many eggs equal a basket of apples? Or worse, what if no one wants what you're offering? Barter is a business model with no scalability. It works in tribes. It fails in civilizations. Yet it reveals the foundational idea beneath every business ever created. Value is not objective, it's negotiated. The entire economy is built on that tension. Even in modern business, barter lives on, just in disguised forms. You trade your data for a free service. A brand gives you status, and you give them loyalty. A creator gives you content, and you give them attention, which they monetize. Barter is still everywhere. It's just been abstracted, gamified, and scaled until we forgot we were even trading. And the more layers you add between what's offered and what's taken, the more dangerous the model can become. Direct sale, the oldest real business. Once money was invented, everything changed. Now, you didn't have to find someone who both had what you needed and needed what you had. You could trade your goods for coins, then use those coins anywhere. That's the direct sale model. You make something, a loaf of bread, a pair of sandals, a tool, and you sell it. Simple, honest, transparent. It's the foundation of all traditional business. One product, one price, one transaction. And for most of human history, this was the dominant model. The blacksmith, the baker, the cobbler, all surviving on what they could produce and sell directly. But what made this model powerful was also what made it fragile. It doesn't scale easily. Your income is tied to your labor, your inventory, your time. You can't sell 10,000 loaves of bread if you only have the ingredients for 20. You can't reach customers across the ocean if your stall is on a village street. So as economies grew, people started building layers on top of this model. Wholesalers, distributors, shops, warehouses, logistics networks. Each one took a cut, but each one made scale possible. And eventually something strange happened. In many modern businesses, the original creator disappears. You no longer buy from the person who made the thing. You buy from a system that moves it, markets it, and manipulates your desire for it. But underneath it all, whether it's a Shopify store or a roadside stand, this is still the model that everything else evolved from. Make something. Sell it. Repeat. Yet even here, something deeper is at play. Because selling a product isn't just about what you offer. It's about how you price it, and that is where the real games begin. Retail arbitrage, profit without creating anything. What if you didn't have to make anything at all? You just find something cheap in one place and sell it for more somewhere else. No production, no invention, just movement. That's retail arbitrage. Buy low, sell high. It sounds simple, but it's one of the oldest and most quietly powerful business models in the world. Medieval traders used it when they carried silk and spices across continents. Modern resellers use it when they buy clearance items from Walmart and flip them on Amazon. Even real estate flippers and stock traders are using a version of this exact idea. You're not paid for labor. You're paid for noticing the gap, That gap between cost and price is the business. It's where margin lives. It's where opportunity hides, and the people who see it before others win. But arbitrage has a darker edge. Because once you understand that profit comes from inefficiency, you start hoping for inefficiency. You want a market that's fragmented. You want customers who don't compare prices. You want blind spots, desperation, urgency, not fairness. And when that gap starts shrinking, when everything becomes transparent and efficient, the arbitrage model collapses. So businesses start artificially creating gaps, exclusive deals, hidden pricing, geo-restricted offers, limited-time scarcity. The illusion of difference becomes the product. In a hyper-connected world, arbitrage becomes a race. Find the next mismatch before everyone else does. And once you're racing, you're not just reselling anymore. You're building something bigger, a system that moves products faster than creation can keep up. Wholesale owning the middle. When direct sellers can't reach enough customers and resellers need more reliable inventory, wholesalers appear. They don't create, they don't consume. They sit in the middle, quietly controlling the flow. The wholesale model is simple on paper. Buy in bulk from producers at a low cost. Sell in bulk to retailers at a slightly higher cost. Don't touch consumers. Don't worry about branding. Just move volume. But in practice, this middle layer becomes the spine of entire industries. Freight logistics, import-export networks, distribution contracts. The wholesaler becomes invisible, yet indispensable. And unlike retailers, they don't rely on emotional storytelling or brand loyalty. They rely on scale, timing, and relationships. If you can predict demand, secure supply, and move fast, you win. This model thrives in the background. It feeds shelves before customers walk in. It builds supply chains that stretch across oceans, and it doesn't need a brand name to make millions. But it also creates fragility. Because when the middle gets too powerful, it starts distorting everything upstream and downstream. Producers lose pricing power, retailers become dependent, margins get squeezed, logistics get gamed. And suddenly, a tiny delay in the middle causes chaos everywhere else. We saw it when the global shipping network stalled. When one container got stuck, entire product lines disappeared. The wholesaler's model depends on quiet control. But once that quiet breaks, you see just how much of the economy is balanced on middlemen who were never supposed to be seen. Toll booth model. There's a kind of business that doesn't make the road, it just owns the gate. And every time someone passes, it gets paid. The toll booth model isn't about innovation. It's about position, inserting yourself between two parties who already need to interact and charging them both for the privilege. Take credit card processors. Every time a small business swipes your card, a tiny fee vanishes, not to the bank, not to the store, but to the processor in the middle. They didn't invent the product. They didn't sell it, but they still get paid on every transaction forever. Same with Apple's App Store. A developer builds the app, the user buys it, but Apple, sitting quietly in the middle, takes 30% because they control the gate. It's not just digital. In the 1800s, Standard Oil secretly struck a deal with railroads. Competitors had to pay inflated shipping costs, while Standard got kickbacks. They didn't need to sabotage rivals. They just became the toll booth on the railroad. The genius and danger of this model is that once you own the gate, you don't need to compete anymore. You just sit and collect. That's why the toll booth model often becomes invisible. It hides in infrastructure, in finance, in digital ecosystems, in rules that seem normal until you realize someone is quietly extracting billions just for letting people pass. Look around. Somewhere you're probably paying a toll right now, and you didn't even notice. Physical vending machine model. It's the dream of passive income, dressed in steel and glass. You walk by. You see the product. You insert the coin, no salesperson, no negotiation, no human labor, and that's exactly the point. The vending machine is one of the earliest examples of automation replacing retail workers, a mechanical middleman that never sleeps, never complains, and never asks for wages. It sells snacks, drinks, socks, books, umbrellas, raw meat, used underwear. Yes, even that in some parts of the world. All with one idea: the product should sell itself. But here's where it gets disturbing. Vending machines don't just automate convenience, they exploit it. They're placed in high-impulse environments, train stations, school hallways, late-night hotel lobbies, where judgment is low and cravings are high. The prices are rarely fair. The margins, often obscene. You're not paying for a snack, you're paying for not walking across the street. And the psychology goes deeper. Vending machine owners run silent experiments, move a product one shelf higher, change the lighting, double the price at night. No one's watching, so no one complains. Every buyer is alone, unprotected, and unaware that they're being studied like lab rats. In Japan, there's one vending machine for every 23 people. In rural towns, they become the only store left. Not a community hub, not a conversation, just glowing buttons and a quiet hum. But for the owner, it's genius. Once installed, stocked, and monitored, the machine becomes a robotic income stream, extracting money from human weakness at scale. It's not just a metal box, it's a business model that replaced a person and no one noticed. Manufacturing, scaling the machine. This is the business model that built the modern world. Look around you, the phone in your hand, the chair you're sitting on, the clothes you're wearing. All of it exists because someone figured out how to make a lot of something really fast, really cheap. That's manufacturing. You take raw materials, metal, plastic, cotton, silicon, and you turn them into products at scale. Not one pair of shoes, 10,000. Not one iPhone, 100 million. At first, this sounds like progress. More stuff for more people, lower prices, mass availability. But the deeper truth is, manufacturing isn't just about making things. It's about making them cheaper, faster, and more efficiently than anyone else. And that changes everything. Products aren't designed to be beautiful, or durable, or even functional. They're designed to fit into a system, a factory, a supply chain, a margin target. A button that takes 2 seconds to sew becomes 1 second. A piece of plastic that costs 5 cents is swapped for one that costs 3. If a robot can replace 10 workers, it does. Not because it's better, but because it's cheaper. It's not personal. It's just math. And when you scale this model across countries and continents, you get global industries built entirely around cutting costs by cutting corners. That's why products feel flimsier over time, why things break faster, why we're surrounded by low-cost, high-volume junk we didn't really need. But manufacturing works financially. Because once the system is up and running, every extra unit is more profitable than the last. You already paid for the factory, the tooling, the design. Now you just press repeat. And once that loop is running, the next business model kicks in. Why make something yourself when you can just sell the right to it? Licensing, getting paid without building anything. Imagine you invent something valuable, a design, a character, a piece of software, a brand. Instead of selling it yourself, you let someone else use it for a fee. That's the licensing model. You don't sell the thing, you sell permission to use the thing. You've seen this everywhere, even if you didn't realize it. When a toy company put Spider-Man on a lunchbox, they didn't create Spider-Man, they licensed the rights from Marvel. When a small studio uses Unreal Engine to make a video game, they didn't build the engine, they're licensing the tech. It's a powerful shift in logic. Build once, sell forever. You don't have to manufacture, market, or distribute. You just own the rights, and others pay you to play in your sandbox. The more powerful the license, the more control you have. You can set limits, territories, timeframes. You can charge flat fees or take a cut of every sale. And if your intellectual property becomes iconic, a logo, a brand, a patented mechanism, you can make money from it indefinitely. No labor, no customer service, no physical product, just control. But licensing has a darker edge too. It turns ideas into gate-kept territory. You can't innovate without permission. You can't remix or reimagine without risk. It's why a fan-made project can get shut down overnight, not because it's bad, but because it's unauthorized. In the licensing world, ownership doesn't just give you value. It gives you monopoly rights over value, and that monopoly becomes the product. Companies spend billions acquiring licenses, not just to use them, but to prevent others from using them. Because in many industries, success doesn't come from building something better. It comes from owning the thing that everyone else needs. And once you control the rights, you don't have to do the work anymore. You just get paid when anyone else tries. Subscription model. Most business models sell you something once. A book, a shirt, a haircut. But the subscription model changes the game completely. You don't just buy the thing, you rent access to it. Indefinitely. It started simple. Magazines, newspapers, cable TV. You pay a monthly fee, and the content keeps coming. But once digital technology removed the cost of physical delivery, this model exploded. Now everything is a subscription. Music, movies, fitness, software, education, groceries, even razors and vitamins. Because businesses realize something, selling once is hard. But if you can charge forever, you don't need to keep selling. You just need to make quitting feel harder than staying. And that's where the real psychology kicks in. Free trials, onboarding nudges, auto-renewals buried in fine print, cancellations that take 10 clicks, or a phone call. Subscription businesses don't just make money from value. They make money from inertia, from you forgetting, from you staying just in case, from the vague guilt of not using what you're still paying for. Even the pricing is strategic. They don't want it to feel expensive. They want it to feel invisible. $9.99 is a month, low enough to ignore, high enough to scale. And if they can offer bundles, even better. Now you're subscribed to 10 things you didn't ask for, but feel like a deal. The model is brilliant and dangerous. Because it turns every product into a loop, and every customer into a recurring stream of revenue, not a person making a choice. You're not buying something. You're enrolled in a system. And once you're in, the business is no longer about what they offer. It's about how long they can keep you. Loss leaders. You walk into a store for one thing, a TV that's on sale, ridiculously cheap. You think, how can they possibly be making money on this? They're not. And that's exactly the point. That's a loss leader. A product sold at a loss to get you in the door. Retailers do it. Supermarkets do it. Streaming platforms do it. Even software bundles do it. You offer something incredibly attractive, cheap, high value, sometimes even free. Because once the customer shows up, they rarely leave with just that. Buy one, get one. $1 coffee. Free trial. For 30 days. $1 razor handle. It looks like generosity, but it's a trap. A soft one. Because the loss leader isn't supposed to make profit, it's designed to lower your defenses. You feel like you're winning, getting a deal, taking advantage of the system. But once you're inside, you pick up a few more things. You upgrade, you add accessories, you forget to cancel the trial. And suddenly, you've spent far more than you planned, but you still feel like you saved money. That's the psychology. In this model, the first transaction is bait. It's designed to change your behavior, to convert browsers into buyers, and buyers into repeat customers. Even worse, it conditions you to trust the brand. You think, They gave me a great deal once. Maybe their other stuff is worth it too. And now they've got you. Loss leaders aren't about products. They're about creating momentum, because once you start spending, you're more likely to keep spending. The business doesn't care that they lost money on one item if it turns you into a customer for life. Donation-based model. You walk into a museum, no ticket booth, no turnstile. Just a small sign, suggested donation, $15, and suddenly something strange happens. You feel a mix of freedom and pressure. This is the donation-based model, a business powered not by price tags but by psychology. It works because it flips the script. Instead of forcing you to pay, it lets you choose. But that choice isn't really free. It's socially loaded. You're not just paying for access, you're paying to feel like a good person. Churches perfected this. So did street performers, open source projects, public radio. They all trade in the same invisible currency: guilt, gratitude, and identity. Think of the donation box next to the temple incense, or the envelope passed around after a moving speech. The moment is emotional. It's human. And that's the point. The payment is about you, not the service. And here's the twist. People often give more when they're not forced. Why? Because it feels voluntary. It feels moral. It's not a transaction. It's a statement. I care. I belong. But this model walks a razor's edge. If the ask is too quiet, people ignore it. If it's too loud, it breaks the illusion. The magic only works when it feels optional, but isn't really. In a world of subscriptions and ads, the donation model reminds us sometimes the most profitable thing you can sell is the illusion of generosity. Freemium. This is the model that tricks your brain with generosity. Freemium means exactly what it sounds like. Free premium. You get part of the product for free. But to unlock the full experience, you have to pay. Spotify, Dropbox, Canva, Duolingo. Tens of millions use them for free. A smaller percentage upgrades. That small group, it funds the whole operation. Freemium flips the traditional model on its head. Instead of asking people to buy and then experience, you let them experience and then slowly build the pressure to buy. Because now you're inside. You're using it. You've uploaded files, made playlists, started habits. You've invested. Then comes the friction: limited storage, annoying ads, locked features. A perfectly timed pop-up. Upgrade to premium. It's not a hard sell. It's a psychological squeeze. Because now it feels like you're losing something by not paying. The freemium model works by exploiting the gap between access and frustration. Give just enough value to hook people. Hold just enough back to make them uncomfortable. And because most users stay free, the business starts optimizing around one thing: converting the addicted few. So they test pricing tiers, create artificial limits, add power user features, all to nudge that tiny percentage who will pay more than enough to make up for the rest. It's brilliant and a little manipulative. You're not being charged for what the product costs. You're being charged for what you're willing to tolerate. The product becomes a funnel. Your behavior becomes a data set. And every friction point is just another opportunity to say, you could fix this for a price. Razor and blades model. You walk into a store and buy a printer for $59. Feels like a good deal until the ink runs out. Then you realize the replacement cartridges cost $45 each. And suddenly, you're not just buying a product, you're locked into a system. That's the razor and blades model. Sell the core product cheap or even at a loss, because the real money comes from the parts you'll need again and again. It's named after razors, of course. You buy the handle once, then you have to keep buying blades forever. But this model is everywhere. Printers and ink, game consoles and games, coffee machines and pods. electric toothbrushes and replacement heads, phones and proprietary charging cables. The genius isn't just in recurring revenue, it's in dependency. You can't easily switch. You've already committed. You've bought the ecosystem, and the more locked in you are, the less price-sensitive you become. Because now you're not comparing ink cartridge prices. You're just annoyed your printer won't work until you buy the next one. The business wins twice. First, by making you feel like you got a deal up front. Then, by extracting more value over time with less resistance. But what makes this model so effective is also what makes it frustrating. It's designed to make you feel punished for using the thing you already bought. Low ink warnings that trigger too early, proprietary designs that prevent third-party alternatives, subscription-only refills, DRM-protected toothpaste, in some cases. Because in this model, your loyalty is irrelevant. What matters is control, and the more they control what you need, the less they have to worry about convincing you. Dropshipping. You click on an ad for a handcrafted minimalist lamp. It's sleek, the photography is gorgeous, and the brand feels premium. You order it. A week later, a box arrives, shipped from a factory in Shenzhen. Congratulations. You just bought from a dropshipper. Here's the twist. The person you bought it from never touched the product. They never stored it, never packed it. They probably never even saw it. They just copied the listing from a wholesale supplier, marked up the price, and ran Instagram ads. That's dropshipping, a business where you sell something you don't own, don't make, and don't ship. You're not a store. You're a middleman with good marketing. It's brutally simple. The hard part isn't logistics, it's storytelling. Your job is to make the same $5 product look like it's worth $50. That means clean branding, emotional copy, fake scarcity, only 3 left in stock, a timer counting down. A founder story that's probably AI generated. You're selling the illusion of care, design, and meaning, even though the product exists in 50 identical listings with different logos slapped on. It's the ultimate low-risk, high-hype hustle. No inventory, no warehouse, no employees. Just a laptop, a Shopify account, and a willingness to sell fantasy. And if you do it well, you make money before you even pay the supplier. But here's the dark edge. Every successful dropshipper creates 10 knockoffs. It's a race to the bottom until your premium lamp ends up in a bargain bin of forgotten trends. So yes, dropshipping works, but only for those who realize you're not in retail, you're in illusion design. Marketplace model. What if you didn't sell a product at all, but instead created the space where other people sell theirs? That's the marketplace model. You've seen it everywhere. Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, Etsy, eBay. These platforms don't own the products or services. They connect buyers and sellers and take a cut from every transaction. It's brilliant because it scales fast. You don't need to hire drivers, make crafts, or rent out apartments. You just need users and the tools for them to transact. And once the network grows, the model starts feeding itself. More sellers attract more buyers. More buyers attract more sellers. It's a flywheel, and it's incredibly hard to compete with once it gets going. But marketplaces don't just make money by hosting. They control visibility. Which listings show up first? Who gets recommended? Who gets buried? And that's where the power really lies. Because now they can monetize attention. Want better placement? Pay for ads. Want access to analytics? Subscribe to a seller plan. Want to compete? Learn the algorithm. Or pay someone who has. The platform becomes a gatekeeper, not just of products, but of economic survival. And over time, something shifts. What started as a helpful connector turns into a toll booth. You built your business on their platform. Now they can change the rules, raise the fees, and skim more off the top, because leaving means losing your customers. In this model, the product is the ecosystem. And the real business isn't what gets sold, it's who gets to participate, and at what cost. Time-gated progression models. You open an app, you make progress. Then suddenly stop, a timer appears. Come back in 3 hours, or wait 24 hours to continue, unless you pay. This isn't a glitch. It's not bad design. It's the product. Time gating is a business model where waiting becomes the obstacle, and removing that wait is the product being sold. The genius of it is that it feels fair. After all, everyone gets the same timer. No one is technically being forced to pay. But over time, the model is incredibly effective because humans aren't wired to wait patiently for rewards. We crave immediacy. We want progress now, and companies know it. So instead of charging you up front, they let you get hooked. They give you momentum. Then they interrupt it with a delay. And that's when the monetization begins. This happens in mobile games, energy meters, building timers, upgrade cooldowns, learning apps 1 lesson per day unless you pay, dating apps limited swipes unless you upgrade, productivity tools, export or backup features locked behind delays. You're not buying a premium experience. You're buying back your time. That's the real product. And it works because the system is designed to frustrate just enough to push you toward paying without making you quit. It's a psychological sweet spot, too slow to enjoy, but too engaging to leave. Even worse, it subtly teaches people that time has a price, that progress is not earned, it's rented. In a world where every moment is monetizable, the ability to wait becomes a form of resistance. But not everyone can afford that patience. Which means, again, the system tilts toward those who pay. Time gating doesn't just sell access, it sells relief from the delay it created. Franchise. Once businesses figured out how to make money, the next question was simple. How do we do it bigger, faster, and everywhere without doing all the work ourselves? This is where business models shift from building things to building systems that multiply themselves. Instead of opening 1 store, license 100. Instead of hiring employees, recruit other businesses. Instead of doing the work, create a model others follow. This is how businesses stopped being just businesses and became replicable machines. You've seen it on every highway and in every airport food court, McDonald's, Subway, 7-Eleven. But most of those locations, they're not owned by the company, they're franchises. Here's how it works. You buy the rights to operate under someone else's brand. You pay a fee up front. You follow their rules. You use their products, their uniforms, their training systems. And in return, you get a business that's already been tested, already trusted, already designed to work. For the franchisee, it feels like a shortcut to success. You don't have to invent the wheel, just drive the system. But for the franchisor, the real business, it's even better. Because now, they scale without managing locations, employees, or local problems. They make money from fees, royalties, supply chains, without touching the day-to-day grind. It's ownership at a distance, but the model only works if the brand stays consistent, so it comes with intense control. Every menu item, every ad, every mop and bucket policy. You're buying the illusion of independence with a strict manual. And here's the deeper trick. Franchisors often make more money from selling the franchise than from operating the business itself. Some don't care if your store survives, because your startup fee and supply orders are already banked. In the end, the customer thinks they're buying from a company. But really, they're buying from a middleman who's renting the brand and being squeezed from both sides. That's the genius of the franchise model. It lets a company sell itself again and again without ever losing control. Cross-selling. You're buying a camera. Before you check out, they suggest a case, then a memory card, maybe a lens cleaner, a tripod, a service plan. You didn't come for any of those. But now, They seem kind of necessary. That's cross-selling, the art of suggesting related products while you're already in spending mode. It's not an accident, it's a calculated play on timing and psychology. Because when someone's already committed to buying, their resistance drops. They've made the mental leap. I'm spending money now, and once that door is open, it's much easier to push a little more through. Amazon does this with frequently bought together, fast food chains with make it a meal, streaming services with ad premium channels, online courses with upgrade to the full bundle. Sometimes the added product is useful, but often it's just positioned to feel useful because it matches what you're already doing. That's the secret. Cross-selling doesn't sell you new needs. It amplifies the ones you already admitted to. You're not buying random stuff. You're buying things that complete the thing you're already buying, or at least feel like they do. And when done right, it feels smooth, helpful, even logical. But the outcome is the same. You walked in planning to buy one thing and walked out having bought 5. It's not manipulation, it's momentum. Cross-selling turns your own decision into the engine for spending more, not through pressure, but through the illusion of completion. And when the cart's already rolling, every little nudge feels like part of the plan. Upselling, why you're always one step away from the better version. You're about to buy something. It's what you came for. It fits your budget. It does what you need. Then, you see it. Upgrade to premium for just a little more. A slightly bigger screen, a slightly faster processor. A few extra features, not essential, but tempting. That's upselling, the art of pushing you one tier higher while you're already ready to buy. It's a soft seduction. You're not being sold something different. You're being offered a better version of what you already wanted, and that's what makes it work. Because it feels like progress, not pressure. Suddenly, the base product feels a little too basic, a little underpowered, a little less future-proof. Maybe I'll regret not going bigger. Maybe the extra cost is worth it in the long run. And just like that, you're not deciding whether to buy. You're deciding how much better you deserve. That's the genius. You're not being persuaded to spend more. You're being invited to believe that your initial decision was almost right, just not quite. And once upselling becomes a habit, companies build entire pricing tiers around it. Basic, Plus, Pro, Elite, Ultimate. Each one designed to make the next one feel like a small step up and the one below feel like a compromise. But here's the twist. The base product often exists just to make the higher tier look better. It's a decoy, an anchor, designed to push you upward, a comparison tool more than a real offer. So when you choose the middle tier, you feel smart. Not extravagant, not cheap, just balanced. Exactly where they wanted you. Because in upselling, the real product isn't the item, it's the upgrade. The extra margin, the better positioning, the feeling that you chose wisely, even though you spent more. Vertical integration. Most businesses rely on other businesses. You make the product, someone else ships it. You sell the food, someone else grows it. You design the phone, someone else makes the chips. But vertical integration flips that logic. Why depend on others when you can just own the whole chain? It means a single company controls multiple steps in the process. They don't just sell the car, they own the factory. They don't just make the movies, they own the streaming platform. They don't just grow the vegetables, they run the grocery store. It's like stacking business models inside each other. You control the supply, the production, the distribution, the sale. Every stage, from raw material to customers' hands, belongs to you. And with that control comes power. You don't have to negotiate with suppliers. You don't get caught in bottlenecks. You don't lose margin to middlemen. You control quality, speed, and, most importantly, pricing. Amazon does this. They sell their own products. use their own warehouses, run their own delivery trucks, and power it all on their own cloud infrastructure. Apple does it too, designing the chips, the devices, the software, the stores, even the packaging. It's efficient, profitable, and nearly impossible to compete with. But there's a hidden cost. Because the more integrated a company becomes, the harder it is to escape their ecosystem. You don't just buy a product, you enter a system. Switching becomes difficult. Compatibility disappears. Everything just works as long as you don't leave. That's the real strategy. Vertical integration isn't just about owning the process, it's about making you dependent on their version of the world. And when one company controls everything, they don't just win the market, they become the market. Resale white labeling. Not every business starts with a factory, a warehouse, or a product of their own. Some don't make anything at all. Instead, they use a different strategy. Buy something that already exists, repackage it, and sell it as if it's yours. This is the resale model, and its close cousin, white labeling. Resale is simple. Buy a product wholesale from someone else. Add your markup. Sell it under their brand, or sometimes under your own store's name. But white labeling takes it further. You take someone else's product and brand it as your own. Same shampoo, new bottle, same supplement, different label. Same gadget, but now it's called X Brand Pro instead of the generic version you'd find online. And to the customer, it feels like a premium, original product. They don't know or care that the same item exists under 5 different names on 5 different websites. Because in this model, perception is the product. That's why white labeling is everywhere. Generic electronics with fancy brand names, store brand foods that come from the same factories as name brands, apps and software platforms reskinned and sold under new logos. The logic is simple. Why build something from scratch when you can just rebrand what's already working? It saves time, reduces risk, and lets almost anyone enter a market overnight. The barrier to entry drops, but so does transparency. And the result? A marketplace flooded with duplicates, clones, and copy-paste products, all dressed in different packaging, all fighting for your trust. But the game isn't about being the best, it's about being believable. Because if the customer thinks it's original, if it looks clean, sounds premium, and solves the problem, it doesn't matter where it came from. It just matters that they buy it from you. Float. Ever wonder how companies make money before you've even bought anything? Welcome to the world of float, a quiet financial trick used by some of the biggest businesses on earth. Here's the basic idea. A company takes your money now, but doesn't have to deliver the service or product until later. And in that time in between, they get to use your money to make more money. Amazon Prime is a great example. Millions of people pay up front for a year of benefits. Amazon collects billions before they have to ship a single box. That money doesn't just sit, it works. It earns interest, improves cash flow, funds expansion. Insurance companies do this at an even larger scale. You pay your premium today, but the company might not have to pay out a claim for years, if ever. In the meantime, they invest your premiums and grow their capital. That time delay between receiving money and having to spend it, that's the float. And if they manage risk well, they profit even if you never make a claim. Some businesses have built their entire strategy around maximizing float. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Its insurance arms are float machines, collecting capital cheaply, reinvesting it smartly. It's almost like free financing, powered by the trust and timing of their customers. And here's the twist. The bigger the float, the less dependent a company is on loans or outside investors. You become the bank without realizing it. It's invisible, legal, efficient, and quietly brilliant. Leasing this rental model, you don't have to sell a car to make money from it. You can just let someone use it and keep charging them. That's the leasing and rental model. And it's one of the most quietly powerful business strategies in the world. You own the asset, a car, a building, equipment, software, even furniture. Someone else uses it. They pay you regularly, and when they're done, you still own it. It's business without selling anything permanently. You keep control. They get temporary value. And here's what makes this model so effective. The same thing can be monetized over and over again. One apartment, dozens of tenants. One truck, years of leases. One software platform, monthly billing forever. You don't just make back the cost, you often make many times more because you've turned a product into a service. This model is everywhere. Car leases, equipment rentals, short-term Airbnb stays, software licenses, even clothing subscriptions and luxury bag rentals. But there's a deeper reason this works. People want access more than ownership. Ownership means commitment, maintenance, responsibility. Renting feels lighter, safer, more flexible. And for the business, that's perfect. Because now you're not just providing value, you're billing people for time. And time, unlike products, has no end. That's why so many industries are shifting in this direction. You don't buy software anymore. You subscribe. You don't own movies. You stream. You don't even own Photoshop. You rent it monthly. The rental model doesn't just make things profitable. It makes them recurring. It smooths out revenue, and it keeps customers in your ecosystem without giving them control. Because once they get used to renting, you decide when it ends and at what price. Dynamic pricing. You open a rideshare app, it's $12. Your friend opens it. Same time, same route. Theirs is $9. You refresh. Now it's $15. That's dynamic pricing. The price changes not based on the product, but based on you. It used to be simple. A soda costs $2. A plane ticket is $3.99. Everyone pays the same. But now, algorithms decide what you pay. Not based on cost, but based on data, demand, and what they think you'll tolerate. Airlines do this. Hotels. Rideshares. Ticket platforms. Even e-commerce stores test different prices on different users to see who bites. Here's how it works. If demand is high, prices go up. If you're using an expensive device, higher price. Shopping from a wealthy zip code, higher price. Browsing multiple times without buying. The system knows you want it and adjusts. It's not about fairness, it's about extraction. Everyone sees a different number, and most don't even realize it. What's more disturbing? Sometimes prices rise because you're in a moment of need. Your flight got canceled. You need a hotel tonight. It's raining. And Uber just doubled the price. In that moment, you're not comparing options. You're stuck. And that's when dynamic pricing becomes less like technology and more like a trap. It uses your behavior against you, not to trick you, but to test how far you can be pushed. Because the product doesn't change, only the calculation of how much you're worth right now in this exact moment. And in this model, there is no real price, only what the algorithm thinks it can get away with. Microtransactions, death by 1,000 cuts. You spend $99 there. Maybe $4.99 for something that feels worth it. Individually, none of these purchases seem like a big deal. But collectively, they add up fast. That's the psychology behind microtransactions. Instead of charging a flat fee for a complete product, companies slice the experience into tiny, sellable bits. Skins, boosts, extra lives, premium tokens, even just the removal of ads. And it works. Because we're terrible at tracking small costs over time. If a game asked you for $100 up front, you'd probably say no. But if it spreads that cost over a month, in invisible, frictionless, one-click purchases, many people end up spending more without even realizing it. This is sometimes called the whale model, A small percentage of users, known as whales, spend thousands on microtransactions while the rest play for free. Most mobile games operate on this system. It's not designed for fairness. It's designed for volume and emotional engagement. The logic is simple. Make the cost small enough to be painless. Make the reward feel just satisfying enough. And because it's low commitment, it bypasses our usual financial caution. You're not buying something, you're just tipping, supporting, or enhancing your experience. It feels casual. But these tiny transactions can quietly rewire how we experience value. You start measuring enjoyment by what you've unlocked. You start associating money with progress. And soon, the free game becomes a marketplace of psychological nudges, each one encouraging just one more micropayment. What makes this model so powerful and disturbing is that it doesn't feel like a business model. It feels like your choice, but it was designed to lead you to that choice over and over again. Pay as you go. Not every customer wants to commit to a monthly fee. Sometimes they just want to pay for what they use. That's where usage-based pricing comes in. Instead of charging a flat subscription or one-time fee, companies meter your activity, how much data you use, how many calls you make, how many API requests you send, and charge you accordingly. It sounds fair, and for a long time, it was the standard. Think of utility companies. You don't pay a flat rate for water or electricity. You pay based on consumption. Cloud services like AWS work the same way. If your website suddenly gets 1 million visitors, your costs spike too. Uber? You pay based on distance and time. Even insurance companies now offer pay-per-mile car policies. This model appeals to customers because it feels meritocratic. You're not paying for what you don't use. But for businesses, usage-based pricing introduces a challenge. Revenue becomes unpredictable. That's why many hybridize it. A company might offer a base subscription fee with extra charges for overages. That way, they lock in baseline revenue while still charging for scale. And there's a deeper strategy hiding inside this model. It turns customer behavior into a revenue source. If you can predict which users will scale up their usage, you can design systems to encourage that behavior. You're not just selling a product anymore, you're selling growth itself. Every click, call, stream, or scan becomes a billing event. The danger? Customers hate surprise bills. One accidental spike, and suddenly they feel punished. So the trick is in how transparently and compassionately the usage is shown. Dashboards, alerts, and limits aren't just UX, they're retention tools. This model works best when your cost to deliver scales with usage. But in the digital world, where the marginal cost is often near zero, usage-based pricing becomes a strategic choice. Charge less upfront to attract users, then extract more as they grow. It's a long game. Low barrier, high ceiling. Next up, we'll look at a model that's almost the opposite, the simplicity of a one-time purchase. One-time purchase model. Some business models are simple. You create a product, someone pays for it once, and that's the end of the transaction. No recurring fees, no usage tracking, no subscription pressure, just a straight exchange, money now, ownership forever. This is the one-time purchase model, and it's one of the oldest and most intuitive ways to make money. You buy a book. You own it. You buy a microwave. It's yours. You pay for a video game once, and it doesn't ask you for another cent. It feels clean, fair, and complete. But here's the business side. While customers love the simplicity, companies face a challenge. Once you've paid, they have no more revenue from you unless you voluntarily come back and buy something new. Which means one-time purchase models rely heavily on constant demand product upgrades or replacements, repeat customers, word-of-mouth growth, large audiences to make volume work. If growth slows, sales flatten. If customers don't rebuy, revenue dries up. That's why companies using this model often try to push add-ons, upgrades, or newer versions like yearly smartphone releases or new game titles. Why firms moved away from it? Once digital products emerged, businesses realized they could extract far more revenue by charging repeatedly rather than once. So software that used to cost $199 upfront became $9.99 9-month subscriptions. Music albums became streaming plans. Video games evolved into platforms with in-app purchases. One-time pricing became less attractive, not because it stopped working, but because it offered less long-term financial leverage. But it still thrives when ownership matters. People still prefer buying once when they distrust ongoing charges. They want full ownership, physical goods, indie games, ebooks they control. They dislike being locked in. A product is used occasionally, not continuously. That's why many creators, indie developers, and premium consumer brands stick to this model. It signals fairness and independence. In essence, one-time sales are a model built on trust and transaction, while newer models pivot toward dependency and relationship. Software as a service. There was a time when you bought software once and it was yours forever. You'd walk into a store, grab a box with a CD inside, pay once, install it. Done. No updates. No subscriptions. No extra fees. That world is gone. Today, software doesn't live in boxes. It lives in the cloud. And instead of owning it, you rent it. Every month, forever. This is software as a service, or SaaS. What it actually means: instead of buying a product, you're paying for access. You don't own the app, you log into it. You don't install the whole program. You use it in your browser. You don't pay once. You pay monthly, or yearly, or forever. Think of things like Google Workspace, Notion, Canva, Zoom, Dropbox, Salesforce, ChatGPT. You're not buying a file. You're paying to keep the gate open. Why it took over everything from the business side. SaaS is a dream come true, recurring revenue. Instead of one-time sales, customers become long-term income streams. Low friction. No shipping. No updates to install. Just click and use. Constant updates. Developers can fix bugs, add features, and roll them out instantly to all users. User data. Every click, every use, every preference, it's all tracked and used to improve the product and marketing. And from the user's side, no big upfront payment, no outdated versions. Everything syncs everywhere, all the time. SaaS feels smooth, clean, always improving. It's like renting the best possible version of a tool. Forever. But there's a catch: you never own anything. Stop paying. It disappears. Need it long term. You'll pay more over time than if you just bought it. Want to leave? All your data might be locked in. SaaS is sticky. Once your team or your workflow relies on it, leaving is painful, not just financially, but operationally. That's the hidden power. Dependence. You don't just use the product, you build your life around it. And the more vital it becomes, the more valuable that monthly charge feels. Why it's everywhere now. Almost every digital business today either is a SaaS or relies on one. From design tools to finance apps to AI interfaces, SaaS is the default. Because the world doesn't want to buy software anymore. It wants to subscribe to possibility. And SaaS companies are happy to sell that. One click, 1 month at a time. Affiliate marketing. Imagine this. You're scrolling through a blog, a YouTube video, or maybe some guy on Twitter is raving about a new gadget that changed his life. You click the link. You buy it. Nothing strange, right? But what you don't see, what's buried inside that link, is a code, a tracker, a signal to the company that says, "Hey, this customer came from me. Pay up." That's affiliate marketing. The invisible sales army. Affiliate marketing turns anyone into a salesperson without hiring them. No contracts, no salary, no risk. Just give them a link. If someone clicks it and buys, you get a cut. That's it. It's like outsourcing your entire sales department to the internet, and you don't pay them unless they perform. Amazon does this. So do airlines, insurance companies, VPN providers, food apps, dating services, basically every online business with a pulse. It's not just a marketing strategy, it's a business model. Why it works so well. Here's the genius. Affiliate marketing doesn't feel like advertising. It feels like a recommendation, a tutorial, a review, a friendly tip. Here's what I use. Here's what works. So the customer's guard is down. And the trust that took years to build, an audience, a reputation, a voice, gets monetized instantly. No inventory, no product, no risk, just influent clicks commission. How this turns into serious money, you know that guy who writes the 10 best web hosting platforms. That's not a blog post, it's a business. Every single link in that article is an affiliate link. Each sign-up can pay $5,500 or more, and it's evergreen. People search, click, buy while the author sleeps. Some creators make more from one affiliate link than from millions of YouTube views. Others build entire sites, brands, or newsletters just around affiliate revenue. But it gets shady fast because there's money on the line. The system gets gamed. Top 10 lists that are really just ads in disguise. Fake reviews for high payout products. People recommending things they've never used. Comparison sites that pretend to be neutral, but always favor whoever pays best. And it works, because to the viewer, it doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like truth. Affiliate marketing is the invisible engine behind half the internet. It's how creators survive. It's how products spread. It's how money moves, quietly, invisibly, and often more effectively than any traditional ad. It's not selling. It's trust, weaponized. Freelancer Model. The freelancer model is simple. Sell your skill, one client at a time. No office, no boss, no product. Just you and what you can do. But here's the twist. You're not just the worker, you're the business. You market yourself, negotiate rates, handle contracts, and deliver results. Every part of the business pipeline lives in your head. That means freelancing isn't just about doing work. It's about packaging trust. The client isn't just buying a logo or a landing page, they're buying speed, reliability, clarity, your ability to take uncertainty off their plate. Most freelancers start by selling time, $30 an hour, $500 for a project, but the smart ones evolve. They stop charging for time and start charging for impact. If your design makes them $50,000, why should you earn $500? The real game is specialization. Being a writer is a race to the bottom. Being the writer for B2B SaaS onboarding emails, that's pricing power. That's a waiting list. That's how you turn time into leverage. But freelancing also traps people. No work, no money, you get sick, you stop earning. It's freedom, but with constant vulnerability. So this model, as ancient as the blacksmith, now powers the global knowledge economy. One person, one skill, sold to many, until one day it scales into something more. Consulting model. Consultants don't sell time, they sell clarity. At least the good ones do. The consulting model flips the script. Instead of building something, you get paid to know something. Your product is insight, diagnosis, a shortcut through confusion. That's why consultants can charge $20,000 for a PowerPoint. They're not selling slides, they're selling decisions. A company spends millions per month. If your advice changes the direction even slightly, the value is exponential. Here's the trick. Consultants often sell to the fear of being wrong. A Fortune 500 executive might know the answer already, but hiring McKinsey gives them cover. If it fails, it wasn't my fault. The best minds agreed. And yes, sometimes consulting is glorified guessing with a suit. But at the top end, it's leverage on another level. Your selling experience distilled across industries, filtered into one precise answer. Better yet, consultants reuse thinking. One solution becomes a slide deck. That deck becomes a workshop. That workshop becomes a 100K retainer. Suddenly, you're not just solving problems, you're systematizing them. It's not scalable in hours, but it's infinitely scalable in credibility. Commission-based sales. You don't pay for effort, you pay for results. That's the logic behind commission-based sales, one of the oldest and most psychologically loaded business models in existence. And also one of the most dangerous. Instead of a salary, you pay people a cut of what they sell. Sounds efficient, right? Aligns incentives. Motivates hustle. You only lose if they win. But here's where it gets weird. The more dependent someone becomes on commission, the more their survival hinges on your product selling, whether it's good for the customer or not. That's why commission-based systems are breeding grounds for manipulation. It's not about matching solutions to problems. It's about saying whatever it takes to close. Real estate agents, insurance brokers, car dealerships, MLMs. The commission is the real product. That's why there are entire industries where the thing being sold barely matters. It's just the excuse for the payout. Even worse, high commission systems warp trust. Customers instinctively wonder, is this advice or a pitch? And once that doubt creeps in, it infects everything. Still, it works. When used well, commission structures create armies of motivated reps. It's why some of the world's biggest companies scale using it, from financial services to luxury goods. But it's a fragile system. One step too far, and you're not rewarding results, you're incentivizing deception. And the market always catches up. Brokerage model. You don't sell the product, you sell the connection. That's the essence of the brokerage model, a business that makes money by sitting between two parties who want something from each other. You're not the buyer, you're not the seller, you're the bridge, and bridges can charge tolls. A real estate broker doesn't own the house. A stockbroker doesn't own the shares. A talent agent doesn't perform. But every time a deal gets made, they get paid, not for doing the job, but for making the job happen. This model thrives on information asymmetry. You know something others don't. Who's buying, who's selling, what price is fair, and you monetize that knowledge. In many industries, this gatekeeping is everything. Access is power. But the real trick, brokers don't scale like sellers. They scale like networks. The more people they know, the more deals they control. And the more trust they build, the harder they are to replace. In some cases, brokers charge fees. In others, they take a cut. But in every case, they don't need inventory, factories, or storefronts. Just insight. Just access. Just leverage. And that's what makes this model so durable. You don't need to own the gold mine if you can own the road leading to it. Patronage, sponsorship. Before ads, before crowdfunding, before scalable monetization, there was patronage. And in some corners of the economy, it never left. The patronage model is simple. A wealthy individual or group pays a creator, thinker, or performer to keep doing what they do, regardless of market returns. It's not about transactions, it's about alignment, values, prestige, influence, or legacy. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel not because people bought tickets. He was paid by the Pope, not to sell, but to create. In fact, many of history's greatest artists, composers, and philosophers survived through patronage. They didn't work for money. They worked for someone who had money. Today, patronage has been reborn in sponsorships, donations, and even platforms like Patreon. Think of it as investing in culture, not capital. A YouTuber might be sponsored by a brand who wants to borrow their audience's trust. A podcast might survive entirely on listener donations. It's still patronage, but democratized. What makes this model so fascinating is that it detaches creation from the market. The artist no longer answers to what sells. They answer to whoever believes in the mission. Sometimes that leads to genius, sometimes to propaganda. And here's the twist. In the modern world, brands themselves seek patronage. Universities, sports teams, institutions, all sponsored by corporate money in exchange for visibility, values, or emotional halo. This isn't just money changing hands, it's influence being traded, prestige being rented. And behind every logo on a jersey, every plaque on a wall, every creator supported by is the quiet engine of patronage, the oldest business model in art. Print publishing. Before apps and social feeds, there was ink. And the moment we learned to press words into paper, the business of publishing was born. The print publishing model is simple. Package ideas into physical form, then sell, rent, or distribute them. Books, magazines, newspapers, each one a tangible container for information, opinion, and culture. But here's what most people miss. Publishing isn't about writing. It's about ownership. The publisher controls access, distribution, and rights. In the 1800s, printing was expensive, so only those who could afford presses and control supply chains could mass-produce ideas. That's why publishing became a gatekeeping business. Want to reach the public, get past the publisher. Or start your own, and yet print still holds strange power today. A book feels real. A newspaper still legitimizes a story. Why? Because physical objects signal credibility. You had to risk capital to make it. You had to bet on the idea. What's fascinating is how monetization stacks. Authors earn royalties, publishers earn margins, bookstores earn shelf space, advertisers buy inserts, and rights get sold across countries and formats. One book becomes a stream of value, not a single sale. Even in the digital era, the print model survives, not just for money, but for meaning. Self-publishing tools exploded access. Niche magazines now sell limited runs for prestige. And print isn't dying. It's becoming luxury. In a world drowning in pixels, there's still something powerful about paper. Not because it's profitable, but because it lasts. Repair and maintenance services. We were never supposed to throw this much away. In the old world, repair was the rule. Shoes got resoled, radios got fixed, washing machines were passed down. And an entire economy quietly thrived around one simple idea: don't replace it, repair it. This business model doesn't create anything new. It saves what already exists. It's the economy of restoration. And while it might seem unsexy compared to sleek tech startups, it's one of the oldest, most essential business models in history. Think about what it offers: expertise, not materials. A repair person doesn't sell a product, they sell the ability to undo damage. That's powerful. It turns knowledge into income. It also builds trust. You're not just paying to fix something, you're betting that someone understands it better than you ever could. But here's the twist: modern products are designed to fight this model. Phones sealed shut. Cars with proprietary software. Appliances with parts too expensive to replace. Why? Because repair threatens new sales. If it's easier to buy a new one, the repair economy dies. This has led to movements like right-to-repair laws, where consumers demand the ability to fix what they own. And quietly, a new kind of business is emerging. Open-source fixers, refurbishing collectives, modular design startups, people fighting back with wrenches and knowledge. Repair is not nostalgic. It's disruptive, because every object fixed is a purchase prevented. And in a world addicted to new, the humble repair shop might be the last line of defense against planned obsolescence. Because sometimes the smartest thing isn't to invent something new, it's to keep the old thing alive. Custom manufacturing. Most of the world is built on sameness. Mass production is how we got cheap furniture, identical shoes, and 10,000 units of anything in under a week. But custom manufacturing flips that model. It's not about producing more. It's about producing differently, for one person at a time, and that changes everything. Because when you manufacture something custom, you're not just making a product, you're making a decision. You're choosing the material, the dimensions, the function, and often the emotion it carries. It's the difference between a ring and your ring, between a chair and your chair. This model turns manufacturing into a service. The factory becomes a partner, not a machine. But here's the fascinating part. Technology has made custom scalable. Once, a tailor-made suit meant weeks of work and sky-high prices. AI-assisted measurements, 3D printing, CNC milling, even robotic welding all make it possible to mass-produce individuality. And that's dangerous to traditional supply chains. Think about shoes that mold perfectly to your foot, guitars carved to your hand's shape, furniture designed for the exact shape of your room. Suddenly, the generic becomes the lesser option. Big brands can't compete with you specific, but it gets deeper. Custom products carry identity. People don't just want usefulness, they want meaning, rarity, authorship. And this model sells exactly that. It sells uniqueness in a world drowning in uniformity, and that's why it's growing. From Etsy creators to billion-dollar startups, from prosthetics to home decor, custom manufacturing is quietly becoming the revenge of the human touch in a hyper-standardized world. Because in a system designed to make millions of the same thing, making just one exactly right might be the most radical thing you can do. Farm-to-market, agriculture sales. Most people never think about it, but every apple you eat is part of a supply chain war. At one end, there's the industrial agriculture machine, mega farms, centralized distributors, and supermarkets with 40,000 products. At the other end, a farmer selling directly to a customer. That's the farm-to-market model, and it's a quiet revolution. This model skips the middleman. No wholesaler, no logistics firm, sometimes not even a grocery store. Just a farmer, a truck, and a table at the local market, or a subscription box of vegetables landing at your door. Why does this matter? Because it flips power. In traditional agriculture, farmers are often price takers. They grow what distributors demand, sell at razor-thin margins, and get crushed by commodity prices they can't control. But in farm-to-market, the farmer sets the terms. They choose what to grow, when to sell, and who gets it. Suddenly, the smallest player has leverage, not because they scaled up, but because they opted out. And here's what's fascinating. Consumers love it. The closer your food is to the dirt, the more people trust it. No plastic wrap, no chemical preservatives, just carrots with actual dirt on them. And people will pay more for that. Why? Because it feels real. Local, human. But it's not just warm fuzzies. This model brings agility. A drought hits. A farmer can pivot crops. A customer wants a custom harvest. It's doable. There's no warehouse full of unsold stock. No international shipping delay. No 30-day payment cycle. It's primitive, and that's its superpower. Farm-to-market isn't just about vegetables, it's about decentralizing food. It's one of the last truly physical business models that still works in a world dominated by apps and subscriptions. And it reminds us sometimes, the most powerful business isn't the biggest, it's the closest. Artisan's craft model. In a world of mass production, the artisan model feels like a rebellion. It doesn't scale. It's not cheap. It doesn't optimize margins, and that's exactly why it works. The artisan or craft business model is built on one idea. You're not buying a product, you're buying the person who made it. The hands, the time, the story, the soul. A hand-thrown ceramic bowl is not competing with an IKEA plate. It's competing with loneliness, with meaninglessness, with a world where everything feels the same. That's the secret scarcity of identity. In the Artisan model, every imperfection is a fingerprint. And in a market where everything is polished and repeatable, authenticity becomes a premium. But don't mistake it for nostalgia. This model works because of modern disillusionment. People crave connection. And the artisan delivers it. Not through scale, but through intimacy. The economics are weird. A craftsperson can sell a $3 candle for $40, not because the wax is better, but because the story is. Poured in small batches, inspired by the forest I grew up near. That's not marketing. That's value. People want to be part of a narrative they can touch. It's not efficient. It's not exponential. It won't IPO. But the artisan model proves something disturbing. When everything becomes machine-made, the human-made becomes luxury. And that's not just a business insight. That's a societal warning. Collectibles antiques trade. What kind of business model sells worthless objects for millions? Welcome to the collectibles and antiques trade, where value isn't in the item, but in the story we project onto it. A plastic figurine made in a Chinese factory sells for $3 unless it's limited edition, still in box, and from 1984, then it's $15,000. Why? Because this model isn't about utility. It's about nostalgia, scarcity, identity, and status. That's 4 economic levers firing at once. The item is often meaningless on its own. A coin, a baseball card, a porcelain teacup. What matters is what it represents. A past, a culture, a childhood, a world that doesn't exist anymore. And when memory becomes scarce, it becomes monetizable. The antique market operates similarly. That old chair? Worthless, until it's from 1760 and touched by a minor French noble. Suddenly, it becomes an artifact. Not because of the wood, but because of the myth. This trade reveals something disturbing about value. It can be invented from nothing but belief. A stamp, a rare error print, a signed vinyl, none of these have inherent function. They're economically powerful only because enough people agree they are. It's a market built on faith, not utility. And when faith becomes tradable, the question isn't, what is it worth? It's how many people still believe it's worth anything at all. Pawn shop model. Most businesses sell things. Pawn shops buy your desperation. At its core, the pawn shop model isn't about retail. It's about liquidity in crisis. When someone needs cash fast, they trade something valuable for a short-term loan. If they return with the money, they get it back. If not, the shop sells it. It's collateralized lending, built for people with no other options. Banks don't want your watch. Pawn shops do. They operate on 2 engines, resale profit and interest from loans that often go unpaid. But here's the dark edge. This model thrives when people are struggling. The poorer the area, the more pawn shops survive. Because when people live on the edge, the need to turn possessions into survival cash becomes predictable and profitable. Pawn shops don't just buy items, they buy urgency, and they sell it later at full emotional markup. Sometimes the items are stolen. Sometimes they're family heirlooms. Sometimes they're tools someone needs to get back to work, but they give it up just to pay rent. This business is centuries old. It predates modern banks. And in many parts of the world, it still is the bank, just with worse terms. It's not evil, but it's a mirror. A society with lots of pawn shops is a society where people have no margin for error, and that's worth noticing. Rental by the hour. There's something strange about renting reality in slices of time. The rental by the hour model turns access into a clock. You don't buy the product. You buy the right to exist near it for 60 minutes at a time. Hotels use it for rooms. Studios use it for lighting. Co-working spaces use it for desks. Karaoke bars, love hotels, even luxury cars, all priced by the hour. Because hourly rental doesn't just monetize space, it monetizes urgency. The less time you have, the more pressure you feel to make it count. And that pressure, that's where the profit is. Need a private room for a call? That'll be $15. Want to cook in a fancy kitchen? It's $40 for 2 hours. Want to lie down in Tokyo? A nap pod runs $20 per hour. In places like Japan, you can rent a person to listen to you or cry with you. For an hour, this model thrives in urban density where ownership is impractical and privacy is scarce. It's flexible, scalable, and deeply profitable when paired with automation. But here's the dark twist. When life is fragmented, businesses are ready to sell you piece, 1 hour at a time. It's not just capitalism filling a need. It's capitalism creating a world where needs are more easily rented than resolved. And every tick of the clock is money for someone. Auction-based pricing. Let's talk about one of the most psychologically brutal business models ever invented, auction-based pricing. Here, there is no set price, no listed value, no limit. There's only what someone is willing to pay and what someone else is willing to beat. At its core, an auction is a business model that sells scarcity, tension, and ego. You're not just buying a product. You're winning it. That word matters. Winning triggers dopamine. You're not shopping, you're competing. And businesses love that because it makes people go far beyond what they intended. Ever wonder why art, collectibles, or rare sneakers go for absurd amounts? It's not the item, it's the auction format. The illusion of demand creates a bidding war, even if only 2 people truly want it. And the most disturbing version? Reverse auctions, where humans compete to work for less. Think of freelance marketplaces, where skilled labor underbids itself into desperation. Or corporate contracts, where vendors slash prices to survive. It's the same model, just flipped. In every case, the seller wins by shifting pricing upward or downward based on psychological pressure, urgency, fear of loss, sunk cost, and social status. The auction isn't about value, it's about emotion, and that emotion is profitable. Because when price is a moving target, you're not paying for the thing, you're paying to make the feeling stop. And the house always gets its cut. Rescue or salvage business. Let's talk about a business model built entirely on other people's disasters, the rescue or salvage model. This isn't just about recycling junk, it's about extracting value from collapse, and it's disturbingly brilliant. When something breaks, floods, burns, or fails, most people see loss, but some see inventory. A sunken ship, a salvage operation, a foreclosed house, a fixer-upper with markup, a bankrupt company, a cheap buy with hidden assets. Even natural disasters, contractors, cleaners, insurers, all move in. This model thrives on asymmetry. Because once something is ruined, the seller loses power. Fast, they'll take anything. And that's when the rescue model swoops in with cash, tools, and a plan to flip it. And sometimes, the rescue isn't so innocent. There are businesses built entirely on waiting for collapse. Buy it for scraps. Repackage. Resell. Repeat. The more emotional the disaster, the faster the deal. In fact, some companies specialize in buying lawsuits. That's right. They'll buy your pain, your claim, your trauma, and turn it into predictable profit. You get a little money now. They get a windfall later. It's legal, it's smart, and it's quietly everywhere. From junkyards to vulture capitalists, the rescue model isn't about building value. It's about finding value in what everyone else gave up on. It's capitalism in its most scavenging form. Fear-based upsells. This model preys on one thing: anxiety. You buy the product, and suddenly you're warned it might not be enough. What if something goes wrong? What if you lose access? What if your data's not protected? Now, for just a little extra, you can feel safe. This is fear-based upselling. It's when companies engineer vulnerability, then sell you the patch, and it's everywhere. Buy an airline ticket. Now pay to pick your seat. Oh, you didn't? That might mean middle seat in the back. Want travel insurance, just in case your flight gets canceled? Pay up? Luggage? Another fee. The base product now feels incomplete or even risky. Security software does this too. You download the free antivirus. It scans your system, then tells you there are 47 threats. But to remove them, you'll need the premium version. And the wording? It's never optional. It's you're exposed. Act now. Sometimes the threat is subtle. Dating apps warn you, without boosting, you might never be seen. Cloud storage tells you you're nearly full, risking lost files. And in some services, canceling triggers warnings that you'll lose access, status, or safety. It's not just about protection. It's about creating fear, then monetizing it, and the genius of it. You feel like you're protecting yourself, but you're paying for a vulnerability they built in. Event-based monetization. Let's talk about event-based monetization, the business model, where time itself becomes the product. Here's the trick. The business doesn't exist until the event happens. And when it does, everything is suddenly valuable for a very short time. Think concerts, conferences, weddings, sports matches, fairs, festivals, even pop-up museums. These aren't just about tickets. They're ecosystems built around moments. You're not just buying a seat. You're paying for belonging, for experience, for being part of something unrepeatable. And that creates urgency. Because if you miss it, it's gone. That urgency drives spending. Vendors can charge more for food, drinks, merch, even parking. Prices spike, patience vanishes, and everyone's ready to spend to make the most of the moment. And if it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, the numbers go wild. Weddings are a $60 billion industry. Music festivals like Coachella can gross over $100 million in one weekend. A single Super Bowl can pump $500 million into a host city. But here's what's fascinating. The event itself is often not the main product. It's the infrastructure, lighting, sound, stages, security, logistics, portable toilets, VIP wristbands. Entire industries exist just to support the illusion of spontaneity. And when it ends, the tents vanish. The stage gets packed, and the economy disappears until the next one. This is a business model built on fleeting emotion, urgency, hype, nostalgia. It turns moments into money. And the real winners? They're not in the spotlight. They're the ones renting the spotlight by the hour. Real estate ownership. Why do the wealthiest people in the world always end up buying land? It's not just the value. It's what real estate does to the rules of the game. You buy a building once, and it starts paying you forever. Rent, lease, resale, collateral, real estate generates income, power, and leverage even while you sleep. But here's what most people overlook. This model isn't about selling space. It's about controlling where people exist. Every restaurant pays rent. Every shop needs a roof. Every factory needs land. The moment you own property in the right location, other businesses pay you to exist, and it scales quietly. You don't need millions of customers, just one tenant, one lease, one locked-in contract. And because everyone needs space, the power dynamic flips. You're not selling a product. You're selling permission to operate. But there's something darker underneath. Real estate also creates geographic monopolies. If you own enough property in a neighborhood, you decide who gets to live there, what opens, what shuts down, what's allowed. And when cities grow, your land becomes more valuable without you doing anything. That's why old money loves land. It doesn't rot, break, or vanish. It just sits there, quietly converting time into wealth. Even today, the biggest companies, Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart, aren't just retailers. They're some of the largest real estate holders on Earth. Because when everything else crashes, land is the last thing standing. Real estate isn't just a business model. It's the board the game is played on. Hospitality model. People think the hospitality industry is about comfort. It's not. It's about charging money for experiences that disappear the moment they happen. Hotels, resorts, spas, tours, nothing physical remains. No product changes hands. And yet, it's one of the most profitable industries in the world. Because the hospitality model turns time and emotion into a business. You're not paying for a bed. You're paying for how it feels to sleep somewhere different. You're not paying for a drink. You're paying to have it served to you on a rooftop at sunset. And that emotional premium, it's huge. People will pay 10x more for something they could get at home if it comes with the illusion of luxury, status, escape, or freedom. But here's the twist. Hospitality doesn't scale like tech. Every new customer costs more towels, more rooms, more staff. So instead, businesses scale the perceived value. They don't give you more. They make you believe it's worth more. A slightly bigger room becomes a deluxe suite. A free drink becomes complimentary champagne. A chair becomes exclusive access. And suddenly you're paying $500 a night to feel like you're not ordinary. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, it's all carefully engineered, dynamic pricing, occupancy algorithms, loyalty tiers, every smile, every cent, every welcome back, Mr. Johnson is part of a system designed to make you feel special enough to pay more. That's the disturbing beauty of hospitality. It sells nothing, yet makes you crave it again. It's not comfort. It's psychological manipulation wrapped in luxury, and people love it. Local experience sales. This is a business model built on a simple trick. You already live here, but they don't. Tour guide and local experience businesses turn local knowledge, something most people take for granted, into a paid product. The streets you grew up walking. Suddenly worth $49.99 if you call it a hidden alley cultural tour. The meal your grandma used to make. Now it's a traditional home-cooked experience for $80 per guest. It's not a scam. It's genius. Because what tourists really want isn't a map. It's a narrative, a feeling of connection. A sense that they're not just visiting a place, they're understanding it. And that's what local experience sellers provide, not geography, but storytelling. But here's where it gets disturbing. These models often flatten culture into performance. Real traditions get scheduled into time slots. Local customs are reworded to fit tourist expectations. An ancient ritual becomes a 3 p.m. activity with snacks. It's culture, monetized, sanitized, and slightly dramatized. And because it's so easy to enter the market, all you need is a listing on Airbnb Experiences or TripAdvisor. It becomes a race to the bottom. Whoever can tell the most charming, clickable version of your city wins, even if they're just pretending. In the end, this model shows how even identity can be a product. Your accent, your grandma's recipe, your childhood neighborhood, all of it can be turned into a performance for strangers. You're not just selling a tour, you're selling a version of yourself that feels authentic enough to be paid for. Transportation service. Before Uber, before apps, before algorithms told drivers where to turn, transportation was simpler and in many ways more brutal. This is one of the oldest service-based business models in existence. Move people or goods from one place to another and charge for the privilege. It's been done with horses, camels, rickshaws, bicycles, vans, tuk-tuks, and unmarked sedans. And while it may seem low-tech, the psychology behind it is razor-sharp, because this model preys on urgency. When someone needs to get somewhere, now their sensitivity to price, comfort, and even safety often drops. That's why in many cities, the airport taxi stand is a battlefield of negotiation and manipulation. There's no algorithmic fairness here. It's all human instinct, reading faces, exploiting hesitation, upselling the naive. In many places, drivers own their vehicles and operate in hyper-competitive markets with zero salary, no stability, and no insurance. Every customer becomes a survival calculation. How much can I charge? Will they say yes? Should I take this detour? That's the darker truth behind the romantic idea of driving for a living. Without centralized platforms, these businesses operate on trust, risk, and reputation, often under invisible informal hierarchies, local monopolies, mafia-controlled zones, or union-style turf wars. But it's also a model of resilience. In war zones, in post-disaster cities, in places where apps don't work or banks have collapsed, transportation services don't stop. Someone with a vehicle and guts becomes the bridge between chaos and commerce. And when done right, it's one of the purest value exchanges in business. I move you, you pay me. No subscriptions, no data, just a price and a path. Concession stand model. It's not about the movie. It's not about the game. It's about the $9 soda. The concession stand is one of the most underestimated profit engines in the world, and once you understand it, you'll never walk into a stadium, theater, or theme park the same way again. Here's the model. You sell something absolutely essential, but completely overpriced, in a place where people have no alternatives. That's not just business. That's hostage economics. The popcorn at the cinema costs a few cents to make. But it's sold for 500%, 1,000% markup. Why? Because you're locked inside and they control the food supply. A small-scale monopoly disguised as a snack counter. At sports arenas, the model expands. You're paying $14 for a hot dog, not because it's gourmet, but because the real product isn't the food, it's the exclusivity of access. The owners lease the food rights, limit competition, and jack the margins through the roof. But here's the kicker. Often, the tickets themselves are sold at a loss or break even. The real profits come after you're inside. It's a reverse toll booth. They let you in, then charge you to survive. And psychologically, it works. Crowds, noise, excitement. Your brain is overloaded, your guard is down, and suddenly $7 for bottled water doesn't feel insane. That's not poor judgment. That's engineered desire. So what looks like a side hustle, a tiny booth with nachos and soda, is actually a carefully designed extraction machine. You didn't just buy a snack. You bought a lesson in forced choice economics. Brick-and-mortar retail. For most of history, if you wanted to sell something, you needed a place. A real physical place. Walls, shelves, staff, signage. Brick-and-mortar wasn't just a business model, it was business. And for centuries, it made perfect sense. You controlled the product, the presentation, and most importantly, the location. Because in retail, location isn't just strategy, it's destiny. That's why storefronts on Fifth Avenue or the Champs-Élysées can cost millions. You're not renting space. You're buying foot traffic, the oldest version of the algorithm. Before TikTok feeds or SEO, your discoverability depended on being where people already were. But here's the dark twist. The cost of entry wasn't just high, it was deliberately high. Rent, permits, decor, inventory, staff. It filtered out small players. It gave scale advantages to the giants. Owning a store meant you'd already won the game until the internet broke it. Now you don't need a storefront. You don't need shelves. You don't need rent. You just need a page and a payment button. And slowly, the old cathedrals of commerce, the malls, the flagships, the family stores started to rot. But brick-and-mortar isn't dead. It just mutated. Now physical retail is theater. Apple stores are stages. Glossier shops are Instagram sets. The product isn't the lotion, it's the experience of touching it in real life. In a world drowning in digital, atoms became luxury. Real things in real places. That's now premium. Scarcity reversed. The model isn't gone, it's just flipped. And the next time you walk into a beautiful store and feel something stir in your chest, remember, that feeling is the product. The early access economy. There's a business model where you don't sell a product or even an experience. You sell urgency. It's called the pay-to-be-first model, and you've probably fallen for it without realizing. Early access to an AI tool, beta invites to a new platform. Sneaker drops, video game pre-orders, VIP tiers that unlock nothing new except time. That's this model in action. You're not paying for quality. You're paying to escape waiting. And in a world where everyone wants to be first, to post, to show off, to win, being first becomes the product. Companies figured out that FOMO is more profitable than features. So they engineered artificial waiting lines, not to handle demand, but to monetize it. This is why a new tool might cost $9 a month, or $99 if you want it now. Why some customers get priority queue while others are told to wait. It's not about performance, it's about status by proximity to launch. The genius and the danger of this model is that it creates a hierarchy out of nothing. The product stays the same. The value stays the same. Only the timing changes, and suddenly that becomes worth money. This is the same psychology behind front row seats, VIP lounges, even IPO investing. But now it's being replicated in every corner of the economy. You're not just a customer anymore. You're part of a countdown, and the faster you want to move, the more you'll pay. Creator economy cut. Imagine you build the stage, set up the lighting, bring in the crowd, and every time someone performs, you take 30% of their earnings. That's the creator economy cut. Platforms like YouTube, Patreon, OnlyFans, Substack, and TikTok don't just host creators, they monetize them. They provide the tools, audience access, and infrastructure. But in return, they take a slice of every dollar the creator earns. And it's not just a small slice. YouTube famously takes 45% of ad revenue. Apple takes 30% of app revenue. Even platforms that claim to support creators are often quietly charging platform fees, payment processing fees, and upgrade tiers just to unlock basic tools. From the platform's perspective, this makes perfect business sense. They reduce their own risk, outsource the content creation, and make money every time someone else succeeds. It's a model of scale without production. The creators bear all the effort, the emotional labor, the burnout risk. The platform just needs to make sure the stage looks good and the crowd stays. And the more creators they attract, the more competitive it becomes, driving creators to do more for less, just to stand out. The platform wins, whether you go viral or barely survive. But here's the twist. Most creators accept this deal. Because the platform has what they don't: distribution. Without it, you can have talent, content, value, and no one to see it. So the platform isn't just taking a cut, it's selling you a chance to be seen, and that's a price most people are willing to pay. Membership community. You're not just buying a product, you're becoming a member, part of a group, a community, a tier. You're in. That's the membership model. You pay monthly, annually, maybe once, and in return, you get access. Not just to stuff, but to status, exclusive content, priority shipping, member-only deals, VIP support. Maybe even a shiny card with your name on it. At first, it feels like a win. You're unlocking something. You're now part of the inner circle. But here's the deeper strategy. Membership makes you emotionally invested in continuing to spend. Because once you've joined, you don't want to feel like you're wasting it. You want to make it worth it. You're more likely to return, to browse, to buy again, not because you need something, but because you're already paying for the privilege. Amazon Prime doesn't just give you fast shipping, it changes how you shop. You start defaulting to Amazon, even when it's not the best deal, because you feel like you're already paying for it. Costco doesn't just sell bulk goods. It charges you for the right to walk through the door. And once you've paid that entry fee, you feel like you should buy something to make it feel worth it. That's the hook. Membership flips the customer-business relationship. You're not evaluating them anymore. You're justifying yourself. And it doesn't stop there. Companies layer status levels, silver, gold, platinum, not just to reward loyalty, but to gamify your identity. You're no longer a shopper. You're a Pro Plus Unlimited Elite member. Sounds silly. But it works, because it's not about benefits. It's about belonging. And once you belong, leaving starts to feel like losing something more than just a product. You're not just canceling a subscription. You're walking away from an identity that was carefully sold to you, one tier at a time. Platform as a service. You know the brand, but you don't see the engine underneath. That's Platform as a Service PaaS. It's when a company doesn't just offer a product, it offers the infrastructure for other businesses to exist. You don't see it, but it sees you. Think of Stripe. It powers payments for millions of websites, but most people don't even know it exists. Think of Shopify, running entire storefronts for brands you follow, but staying invisible. Think of AWS, Amazon's cloud platform, quietly running apps, services, startups, maybe even your banking app. These companies aren't building flashy products. They're building the layer underneath the economy. And here's the wild part. They get paid no matter who wins. Two e-commerce brands can go to war, but if they're both using the same payment processor, the platform wins either way. If one fails and another rises, doesn't matter. The infrastructure stays. It's not about selling one big product. It's about charging a fee for every little thing someone else builds. Storage, processing, checkout, email delivery, logins, analytics. Every click you make online, there's a platform quietly billing someone for it. And this model scales fast because the platforms don't grow like normal businesses. They grow like digital landlords. The more people build on top of them, the more dependence they create. And here's where it gets disturbing. Once a platform becomes essential, it can change the rules, raise prices, cut access, and entire industries are forced to adapt, because at that point, they don't own their own business anymore. They just rent a slice of someone else's. You might see a brand, but behind that brand is another business, taking a cut, tracking usage, setting the limits. That's the PaaS model. You're not selling software. You're selling the foundation other people have to build on and can't afford to leave. Two-sided marketplaces. Imagine this. You don't make the product. You don't buy the product. You just connect the people who do and take a cut. That's the two-sided marketplace model. You're not a seller. You're not a buyer. You're the space where they meet. Airbnb doesn't own homes. Uber doesn't own cars. Fiverr doesn't do the work. But they all make billions because they created a system where supply and demand trade places in real time, and they control the bridge between them. Here's why this model is so powerful. The more users you attract on one side, the more valuable you become to the other. More guests mean more hosts. More drivers mean more riders. More freelancers mean more businesses. It feeds itself. And once that loop gets going, the marketplace starts growing faster than any one product ever could. Because you're not scaling operations, you're scaling other people's participation. But here's where it gets interesting and a little dangerous. The platform becomes the gatekeeper. It decides who gets seen, who gets boosted, who gets banned. And as it grows, it starts taking more, higher fees. New restrictions, complex rules, because at a certain point, users stop having a choice. If you're a driver, a host, a seller, leaving the platform often means losing your entire income. Because the customers aren't yours, they belong to the marketplace. That's the catch. You help build the system. You bring the users. You earn the ratings. But in the end, the platform owns the relationship, and you're just another interchangeable part. Two-sided marketplaces don't make things. They don't solve problems. They own gravity. And once the ecosystem is large enough, everything and everyone orbits around them. Ecosystem lock-in. You buy a phone, then the charger, then the earbuds, then the cloud storage, then the watch, then the smart home integrations. Now your whole digital life is tied to that brand. You didn't just buy a product. You entered an ecosystem, and the deeper you go, the harder it is to leave. This is ecosystem lock-in, one of the most powerful and invisible business models today. The idea isn't just to sell you something, it's to sell you everything else you'll need after that. It's designed to feel smooth, convenient, integrated. Apple does this, so does Google, Amazon, Adobe, Microsoft, even gaming platforms like PlayStation and Xbox. You don't just buy the device, you buy into the world they've built around it, and every new product they release. It doesn't replace the old one. It reinforces the web of compatibility. Your files sync faster here. Your photos auto-back up there. Your settings carry across devices. It all just works, as long as you stay inside the walls. And here's the brilliant and slightly terrifying part. The more seamless it feels now, the more painful it will feel to leave later. That's not an accident, it's the strategy. Because once they've captured your habits, your history, your workflow, your subscriptions, you're not just a customer. You're trapped by convenience. Switching means friction, lost time, lost purchases, lost data, starting over, learning something new. And for most people, that's enough to stay put. This isn't about addiction. It's about architecture. Your life has been slowly built around their system, and now unplugging feels like ripping out the wiring. You don't realize how deep it goes until the moment you try to leave. Fear of missing out. You're scrolling social media. You see people at an event holding a product, using an app you haven't downloaded yet, wearing something you didn't know dropped. It's too late now, and that feeling in your chest, that's FOMO. Fear of missing out isn't just a feeling. It's a strategy, and some businesses are built entirely around it. Early access, beta invites, flash sales, limited pre-orders, only 100 spots left, offer ends in 2 hours. You had to be there. This isn't a coincidence. It's carefully engineered to trigger action by preloading regret. You're not comparing prices. You're not thinking logically. You're reacting because the idea of being left out feels worse than the risk of wasting money. The fear isn't that the product is amazing, it's that everyone else will have it, and you won't. That they'll move forward, and you'll stay behind. And this hits hard because it feels so personal. When a product sells out, you feel like you missed something important, even if you didn't want it yesterday. Even if you wouldn't use it tomorrow. FOMO turns time into pressure, and pressure into profit. Companies use countdown timers, live stock meters, only 3 left, exclusive access codes. They email you after saying, you missed it, maybe next time. It's not about the product. It's about creating a story you don't want to be part of. And once you've felt that sting once, next time, you're quicker to click, quicker to buy, just in case. That's how FOMO turns hesitation into habit. By making you believe the cost of missing out is higher than the cost of getting something you didn't really need. Gated access. You try to join a new app, but it's invite only. You hear about a community, but there's a wait list. You see a product, but it's not available in your region, and suddenly you want it more. Gated access isn't about what the product does, it's about what it withholds and how that makes it feel important. The idea is simple: limit who gets in, and everyone else will want in more. It's used by luxury brands, private clubs, exclusive software, even streetwear drops, and influencer newsletters. The goal isn't to attract everyone. It's to make inclusion feel like status, like access itself is the product. Because once something is hard to get, it starts to feel like it must be special, even if you don't fully know what it does yet. This triggers a strange but predictable shift. You're not buying the product because you evaluated it. You're trying to get in because you were told you couldn't. That restriction creates tension. And businesses use that tension to build demand without spending on marketing. No ads, no promotions. Just the rumor that you can't get in, and the quiet envy of those who did. And once you're finally allowed in, you're more likely to stay, because now it feels earned. And walking away feels like giving up status you had to fight for. That's the real design. Exclusivity creates emotional investment before you even become a customer. By the time you're allowed to pay, you already feel lucky to be there. In this model, value isn't created by what you get, it's created by what others can't. Arbitrage. Arbitrage is one of the oldest and sneakiest business models in the world, and it's brutally simple. Buy low, sell high, but not just anywhere, across gaps most people don't notice. Let's say a designer handbag costs $1,000 in Tokyo, but $1,400 in Los Angeles. You fly to Japan, buy a few, ship them back, and resell them at a profit. Congratulations, that's geographic arbitrage. But now take that to the extreme. Some businesses exploit currency arbitrage, buying goods in countries with weak currencies and selling them in stronger ones. Or tax arbitrage, moving profits through jurisdictions to pay lower rates. It's not illegal, but it's often controversial. Here's a fun one: time arbitrage. Imagine you have a team overseas working while you sleep. They prepare everything by morning. You wake up and sell it. You're not working more hours. You're just exploiting the time zone gap. And then there's knowledge arbitrage. You understand something others don't. A product, a market, a niche. You find it cheap somewhere, then reframe it, rebrand it, or reposition it where it's valued more. That's what many consultants, course sellers, and even influencers do. They aren't inventing. They're repackaging. Amazon resellers do arbitrage at scale, using bots to find price mismatches between retail sites and marketplaces, then auto-listing and fulfilling them without ever touching the product. Arbitrage is everywhere, in finance, e-commerce, real estate, even job hiring. Any system that's inefficient creates a gap, and any gap is a chance for someone to slide in and take the difference. It sounds like cheating, but in a way it's just capitalism noticing what others ignore. Intellectual property holding. Most people think value comes from the thing you can see, the movie, the product, the invention. But some of the most profitable businesses in the world don't focus on making anything new. They just own the rights to the ideas. This is the intellectual property IP holding model, where the real business isn't production, but control. Control over patents, control over trademarks, control over characters, stories, symbols, slogans, formulas, melodies. And once you own that control, you don't have to work. You just wait. Because anyone who wants to use it, or even get close to it, has to pay you. Disney doesn't just create new characters. It aggressively defends and licenses the ones it already owns. A toy, a t-shirt, a theme park ride. If it has Mickey's face, it's monetized. Pharmaceutical companies do this too. A patented drug means a legal monopoly for 20 years. No competition, no generics, total pricing power. And sometimes the drug wasn't even invented by the company holding the patent. They just bought the rights from someone else. And here's where it gets even more interesting. There are companies whose entire business is buying patents and suing anyone they think might be infringing. They don't make anything. They don't sell anything. They just enforce ownership. They're called patent trolls. And in this model, litigation becomes the product. It's not illegal. It's not even rare. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry built on the idea that owning an idea is more profitable than building anything with it. Because in the world of intellectual property, you don't have to innovate. You just have to be first or rich enough to buy the person who was. And once you hold the rights, the business is simple. Let others do the work, then send the invoice. Brand licensing. 2 identical t-shirts, same fabric, same stitching, same factory. One costs $8. The other? $80 because it has a logo printed on the chest. That's brand licensing. You're not paying for the product. You're paying for the perception attached to it. And here's the mind twist. That perception, it's been rented. Brand licensing means a company, let's say a clothing manufacturer, pays to use a name that already carries weight. Not because it adds function, but because it adds trust, status, identity, emotion. Think of Disney-branded toys made by third-party factories, or luxury perfumes by fashion houses, but produced by global licensing firms. Or sports gear with major team logos, manufactured by someone you've never heard of. The product isn't fake. It's just borrowed credibility, monetized. This model is everywhere, from $5 notebooks with Marvel characters to frozen food with celebrity chef branding, to electronics powered by tech giants who never touch the hardware. And a kicker, the brand doesn't even have to make or approve the product directly. It just collects a fee for letting someone else use the name. This turns reputation into revenue, familiarity into margin. Your recognition becomes their leverage. And once you realize this, you start to see it everywhere. That nostalgia stamped cereal box. That influencer's personal skincare line. The children's show slapped on 5 different plastic gadgets in 5 different aisles. Brand licensing is the business of selling what you think the product means, even if the product itself is generic underneath. Because the logo isn't decoration, it's the most valuable part. Decoy pricing strategy. You're choosing between 2 products. Option A, $8 for a small. Option B, $12 for a large. It's a toss-up. But then they add option C, $11 for a medium. Now suddenly, the large feels like a smart deal. Just $1 more for more value. You go for it and feel good about it. That third option, it was never meant to be chosen. It was the decoy. The decoy effect is a pricing model that makes one choice feel better by placing it next to a worse deal on purpose. It's not about value. It's about perception control. Movie theaters do this all the time. Small popcorn, $5 medium, $8 large, $8. Why does the medium even exist? Because it makes the large seem like a no-brainer. Software companies do it too. Basic, $9 month plus, $15 month pro, $16 month now pro. Feels like the obvious win, but only because Plus is sitting there awkward and overpriced to guide your choice. And here's where it gets wild. The decoy doesn't have to sell at all. Its job is to make something else look like a deal, even if it isn't. This turns pricing into architecture. You're not comparing features. You're reacting to contrast. And once you're reacting to contrast, you're not asking, do I need this? You're asking, why wouldn't I choose the best value? Which is exactly what they wanted. In this model, the product isn't just the thing you buy, it's the setup that nudges you into buying the most profitable version. Merch's meaning. You don't really need another hoodie, or another mug, or another tote bag. But you see one with a logo you love, a band, a YouTuber, a movement, a podcast, and suddenly, it feels personal. That's not a hoodie anymore. That's a signal, a badge, a quiet way of saying, this is who I am. That's Merch's meaning. The model where the product isn't the product. The identity is. And here's the wild part. In this model, the thing being sold could be literally anything. As long as it lets you say something about yourself. Political hats, gaming mouse pads, bookstore tote bags, anti-social t-shirts, introvert mugs, streetwear that says nothing at all and yet costs $600 because it signals everything. You're not buying function. You're buying belonging, and businesses have figured this out. The real goal isn't to sell stuff. It's to become the kind of thing people want to wear, display, represent. That's why creators launch merch before they launch products. Why brands make limited drops that sell out in minutes. Why people wear logos of companies they've never bought from, because it feels like alignment. The margins on these items are often huge, because the cost doesn't matter. You're not comparing shirts, you're choosing an identity. This is where capitalism blurs into culture. The hoodie becomes a lifestyle, the hat becomes a worldview, the sticker becomes a statement, and the brand becomes you. It's subtle, it's everywhere, and it works. Because once the customer thinks, this isn't just something I wear, this is who I am, they're not shopping anymore. They're self-defining. Subscription debt. What if I told you that companies have figured out how to turn future you into a recurring source of profit? Enter subscription debt, a business model where you're not just buying a product, you're buying a commitment. A ticking clock, an invisible contract. Let's break it down. You sign up for something free or cheap. Maybe a streaming service, a cloud storage upgrade, a design app, or a fitness tracker. No big deal. Cancel anytime, they say. You barely notice. But now it's in motion. The charge hits every month, whether you use it or not. It doesn't ask how often you log in. It doesn't check if you forgot it existed. It just extracts value on time, every time. This is where the model turns into a trap. Companies know that humans are forgetful, that we're terrible at keeping track of small recurring costs, that the mental friction of canceling, logging in, navigating menus, reconsidering if you might use it again, is often enough to keep you stuck. So the business isn't built on usage, it's built on inertia. Even more dangerous are buy now, pay later systems where you pay in installments for things you've already consumed. It feels like flexibility, but it's really a new kind of debt, disguised as convenience. You're not renting. You're not owning. You're accumulating invisible obligations, and at scale, this becomes a gold mine. Small, predictable payments across millions of people that few ever think about, let alone cancel. You're not just a customer. You're a revenue stream on autopilot. Cult branding. How companies become belief systems. You don't just like Apple. You believe in Apple. You trust it. You defend it online. You feel personally betrayed when they remove the headphone jack. That's not brand loyalty anymore. That's something deeper. Welcome to cult branding, when a company stops being a business and starts becoming part of your identity. This model doesn't just sell products. It sells meaning, a worldview, a tribe, a feeling of us. It's why Tesla fans will dismiss criticism as if they own the company. Why sneakerheads line up overnight for drops they know will sell out. Why people tattoo corporate logos on their skin. Seriously, because in cult branding, you're not just buying something. You're pledging allegiance. And it works, because it taps into something very human, the need to belong. The desire to feel smart, different, ahead, to feel like you discovered something before everyone else did. These brands don't beg for your attention. They reward you for your belief. They use insider language. They create community rituals. They drop limited editions that only real fans know about. They make you feel like part of something bigger. And the scary part, you'll defend them, even when they fail you. Because if the brand is part of who you are, admitting it's flawed means questioning yourself. That's how cult branding flips the customer relationship. You're not evaluating the brand, you're protecting it. And from a business perspective, this is gold. Because you don't just get customers, you get evangelists. People who advertise for you, fight your battles, buy every version of the same product, not because they need it, but because it's a ritual. In this model, the product is just a prop. The real business is belief. Reward loops. You check your phone, no notification. You check again 5 minutes later. One like. You scroll. Refresh. Another comment. Then nothing. Then a surge. You keep checking. This isn't random. It's reinforcement design, and it's how modern products keep you coming back. The logic comes from behavioral psychology, specifically variable rewards. It's the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. You don't win every time, you win sometimes. And that unpredictability is what keeps you hooked. Tech companies have adapted this into their core business model. Not because they want your satisfaction, but because they want your return, likes, matches, loot boxes, notifications, badges, moments of surprise that hit just often enough to make you crave the next one. And when it works, you're not just using the product, you're chasing the next hit. The reward might be tiny. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your brain starts creating anticipation. And anticipation is what drives engagement. Engagement is what drives time spent. Time spent is what drives ad revenue, purchases, upgrades. This is how games monetize players without selling the game. How social platforms grow without selling a product. How dating apps keep people subscribed, not by helping them succeed, but by keeping them close to success. The system rewards you just enough to stay, but never enough to leave. And that's the loop. It feels harmless, maybe even fun, but it's not built for resolution. It's built for repetition. And once your brain gets trained to respond to intermittent reward, you don't even need the reward anymore. Just the possibility. Pay-to-win ecosystems. Imagine a game where you could win, but only if you spend real money. At first, it looks fair. Everyone starts equal. You can grind, improve, level up. But then you realize something. Those who pay get better weapons, faster progress, exclusive perks. Not cosmetic stuff, actual power. That's a pay-to-win system. And it's not just in games anymore. This business model is simple. Instead of offering skill-based progression, the company sells advantage. Want to skip the grind? Pay. Want to outperform others? Pay. Want to win? Pay more. And it works. Because it taps into two powerful forces. Impatience. People hate waiting. If there's a shortcut, many will take it. Status. People want to be better than others. If money can buy that, some will pay. The result? A system where success becomes a transaction. In games, it means players who pay dominate leaderboards. In social platforms, those who pay for visibility rise faster. In creator ecosystems, paying boosts reach, engagement, even credibility. It creates a quiet hierarchy, not based on talent, but on who can afford the edge. And here's the trick. Most pay-to-win systems aren't upfront. They're disguised. A free game with optional purchases that become essential to compete. A creator platform with boost features that invisibly shape the algorithm. A job-seeking site where candidates can pay to be ranked higher in searches. It's not always labeled pay to win, but the structure is the same. If you don't pay, you're playing a harder version of the game. It changes what winning even means. In a fair system, success is proof of skill or effort. In a pay-to-win system, success is often proof of payment. And once enough people start paying, those who don't are left behind, not because they're worse, but because the rules were quietly rewritten. This is how advantage becomes a product, not just in games, in everything. Dark pattern monetization. You try to cancel a subscription. You can't find the button. You click, no thanks, but the text is grayed out and tiny. You accidentally subscribe again because the X on the pop-up was designed to be hard to see. That's not bad design. That's on purpose. Welcome to dark pattern monetization, where companies make money by confusing you, delaying you, or wearing you down. The idea is simple. Don't block your choices. Just bury them. Make the yes bright and big. Make the no look like an afterthought. Make you feel like continuing is easier than resisting. And over time, it works. Not because you want to spend, but because you're too exhausted to stop. These tricks are everywhere. Pre-checked boxes that enroll you in auto-renewals, free trials, that turn into paid subscriptions unless you cancel exactly on time. Endless confirmation steps to opt out, but one tap to opt in, fake countdown timers that reset when you refresh limited stock. Warnings for digital products that can't sell out. It's not illegal. It's not a glitch. It's designed manipulation baked into the user interface to extract more revenue through friction, hesitation, or error. And it works because it feels like your fault. You didn't cancel in time. You didn't double-check the fine print. You clicked too fast. But this isn't carelessness. It's weaponized design. Because every extra month you forget to cancel, every accidental upgrade, every wrong button press is profit. And here's the disturbing part. The more you fall for it, the more it trains you to accept it. You expect trickery. You start to blame yourself, and the business keeps collecting without ever earning your trust. In this model, confusion is the monetization strategy, and your attention span is the currency being drained. App stores as toll collectors. You build the app. You design it, test it, write the code. You find the audience, market the product, handle support. And after all that, you still have to hand over 30% just to be allowed through the gate. That gate is the App Store or Google Play. And you don't have a choice. They didn't help you create it. They didn't build your user base, but they own the road. So now they collect a fee from every car that passes. It's not just the sale of your app. Subscriptions? Yep. In-app purchases? Same. And don't worry, we'll talk about in-app purchases properly soon. For now, just know, even those get taxed. This isn't a marketplace anymore. It's a toll booth. And you're not just paying to reach customers, you're paying to exist at all. That's the model. Control the distribution and you don't need to innovate. You just enforce the rules of the system you built and charge rent to everyone playing inside it. And most users? They have no idea it's happening. You spend $10 in an app, you assume it goes to the developer. But up to $3 might go to the platform just because it can. And the worst part? You can't just leave. The audience is inside the system. The rules are made by the system, and your survival depends on staying in the system. Even if you're successful, they win. Even if you're careful, they win. Because in this model, they don't just own the platform, they own the pavement. Futures contracts. Let's say you're a farmer. In spring, you plant wheat, but harvest won't happen for months. You have no idea what the price of wheat will be by then. Too high, and buyers walk away. Too low, and you lose money. So what do? You lock in the future. You sell a contract now that says, I'll deliver 100 tons of wheat in October at today's agreed price. The buyer agrees. It's a bet. On your side, you get stability. On their side, they're hoping prices rise, so they profit from the deal. Neither party knows the future, but both benefit from pretending they do. And that's just the beginning. Futures contracts aren't just for farmers anymore. They're used in oil, natural gas, gold, foreign currencies, stock indexes, even the weather. Yes, there are businesses that profit if it rains or doesn't. Futures can be used to hedge risk, like an airline locking in fuel prices years in advance. But they're also used to speculate, gambling on price movements without ever owning the thing being traded. And that's where it gets wild. Most futures are now traded by people who never plan to take delivery. They're just flipping contracts, moving imaginary goods for real profits. Entire skyscrapers of wealth built on products that haven't even been produced. It's like betting on the outcome of a race that hasn't been run between horses that haven't been born. But if the system works, no one cares. You don't have to own a thing, just the belief that someone else will buy it after you. Leveraged investing. What if you could invest $10,000 and control $1 million? Sounds like magic or a scam. It's neither. It's called leverage, and it's one of the most powerful, profitable, and dangerous tools in finance. Here's how it works. Imagine you want to bet on a stock going up. But instead of just buying $10,000 worth, your broker lets you borrow extra money, say 90% more, so now you can buy 10 times more than you could afford. If the stock goes up 10%, you double your money. Easy. But if it drops 10%, you're wiped out. If it drops more than that, you owe more than you invested. You're in debt. Fast. That's leverage. You're amplifying your gains, but also your losses. You've replaced risk with volatility on steroids. Now multiply this by thousands of investors, firms, and hedge funds doing it every day, with billions at stake. That's the world of leveraged investing firms. Some use 2x leverage, others use 10x, 20x, even more. It's not rare to see institutions placing trillion-dollar bets, using borrowed money, chasing tiny price movements. Because when you use massive leverage, even tiny changes in the market become life or death. This is how hedge funds make billions in a week. It's also how they go bankrupt overnight. And it's not just them. Retail trading platforms like Robinhood offer options and margin to regular people, sometimes without them even understanding the risk. That's how beginners lose life savings in a single click. Leverage makes the invisible visible. It turns small trades into big moves, and minor mistakes into major disasters. It's the difference between lighting a candle and throwing gasoline on it. It's not about how smart you are, it's how long you can survive the fire. SPACs and shell companies. There's a way to get your company onto the stock market without selling any products, without having a real business model, and sometimes without even having a company at all. They're called SPACs, Special Purpose Acquisition Companies, also known as blank check companies. Here's how this model flips the script. A group of investors creates a shell company. It has no operations, no revenue, nothing but a pool of money and a promise. They list this shell on the stock exchange. Yes, a company with nothing inside goes public, then they go hunting. Their goal? Find a private company, a startup, a biotech firm, an electric vehicle dream, and merge with it. When they do, the startup gets instant access to public market money, and the shell company becomes their Trojan horse into the stock market. To the public, it looks like the company just appeared on the NASDAQ overnight. Why go through all this? Because traditional IPOs are painful, slow, regulated. SPACs. They're faster, cheaper, and come with less scrutiny, at least up front. That's why this model exploded in the late 2010s. But here's the dark side. Because SPACs raise money before they even know what company they'll merge with, it's a leap of faith for investors. And many of these mergers don't work out. Hype-driven startups get rushed into public markets, inflate expectations, then collapse. It's not always a scam, but it's a perfect vehicle for one. This model is capitalism's version of buy now, research later, and it's reshaped how companies go public, or at least how they pretend to. Surveillance capitalism. Most people think they are using digital platforms. But in reality, the platform is using them. Surveillance capitalism is the business model where companies don't just collect your data, they continuously monitor your behavior, interpret it, predict it, and sell it, often without you fully understanding what you've given away. You browse, You swipe, you pause on a video for 2.4 seconds. You don't buy, but you hover over the cart button. You rewatch something. You delete a message. You hesitate. To you, these are tiny, forgettable moments. To surveillance-based platforms, these are signals, micro-indicators of desire, doubt, fear, boredom, loneliness, power, stress. Individually, these signals seem meaningless. But when aggregated across millions of users, they turn into something extremely powerful: behavioral data, a map of human action at scale. Behind every platform, algorithms chew on this data, not just to understand what you did, but to predict what you are likely to do next. Buy, subscribe, rage comment, relapse, click, engage, vote. But it goes further. Once predictions are accurate, they become a marketplace. Advertisers don't just buy ad space, they buy predicted outcomes. I'll pay for people likely to purchase within 24 hours. I want users at emotional low points. I want those who are subconsciously insecure about career success. You are no longer viewed as a customer. You are a data-producing organism whose every emotion is a monetizable fluctuation. And when prediction is profitable, the next evolution is even darker, shaping behavior instead of merely predicting it. Small changes in interface. A button moved. A notification timed at your weakest hour. A suggestion phrased differently. Not enough to force you, just enough to tilt probability. The result? You feel like you're choosing. Meanwhile, the choice itself has been constructed around you. This model doesn't sell products. It sells control over human predictability. And as long as you think you're just scrolling, it keeps working quietly, feeding on your life one data point at a time. Reverse razor blade. You've heard of the classic razor and blades model: sell the handle cheap, make money on the blades. But what if you flip it? In the reverse razor blade model, the expensive product is given away or deeply discounted just to get you buying the cheaper stuff over and over again. Example: high-end coffee machines given away to lock you into proprietary pods. Free luxury printers, so long as you keep buying the specific ink. Even some game consoles are sold below cost because the real profit is in the games, accessories, or monthly subscriptions. Sometimes it's not even physical. A flashy service might offer you lifetime access or premium tools, as long as you stay plugged into their paid ecosystem, exclusive content, templates, upgrades, consumables. It works because it feels generous. I'm getting the expensive part for free, but it's not generosity. It's dependency. You're not the customer, you're the captive, and the kicker. Once you've accepted the free or discounted entry point, you're locked in. The only way out is to abandon the whole system, and the sunk cost makes that feel impossible. This isn't just a pricing strategy. It's a psychological trap, dressed up as a gift. Negative option billing. You sign up for a free trial, you forget to cancel. Suddenly, you're billed monthly for something you barely use. That's negative option billing, a model where inaction equals permission. The trick? It's not the sale. It's the default. Instead of asking for money, the business asks for your failure to opt out. If you don't say no, they take it as a yes. It's legal, but ethically gray and devastatingly effective. Credit monitoring services, software subscriptions, even gym memberships have used this model. The terms are buried in fine print. Unless you cancel, we'll keep charging. It preys on forgetfulness, friction, and attention overload. Life gets busy, you miss the reminder, and now you're trapped in a billing cycle you didn't consciously agree to. Even worse, some businesses make canceling intentionally hard. Hidden buttons, phone-only cancellations, endless forms. That's not bad. UX. That's the business model. It's a psychological game of inertia. Humans are wired to avoid effort. And companies build profit on that. The model works not by creating value, but by counting on your silence. It turns your inaction into revenue. It's not just that you didn't cancel, it's that they designed it so you wouldn't. API tolls. APIs are the plumbing of the internet. They let apps talk to each other, share data, and trigger actions behind the scenes. But what happens when someone owns the pipe and starts charging tolls? Welcome to the API tolls business model. It's simple. Build a valuable data or service pipeline, then make others pay to use it. Weather data, payment processing, maps, messaging, all run on APIs. Stripe makes money every time a business processes a transaction. Google Maps charges developers for map views and geolocation. OpenAI charges per token to access its models. These aren't apps, they're toll roads. And here's the trick. Once people build on your API, they depend on it. Businesses code you into their back end. You become infrastructure, which means you can raise the tolls, and they can't easily leave. It's not just access. Some APIs gate premium features, throttle usage, or charge per request, turning every click into a revenue stream. And it gets deeper. Some companies open their API for free. They attract developers, build an ecosystem, and then put up the toll booth. It's like laying a free road through the jungle, and once everyone's using it, installing a checkpoint with a fee. This is the monetization of connectivity itself. You don't need to build a flashy app. Just own the protocol others rely on and charge them to pass through. API tolls aren't visible to users. But behind every Buy Now button, location pin, or chatbot response, someone's paying to keep the pipe flowing. Microtask Crowdsourcing. What if you could build a billion-dollar platform without hiring employees, just by slicing work into tiny tasks and paying people cents to complete them? That's the Microtask Crowdsourcing model. It works like this. Take a big, complicated job, like labeling millions of images for AI training, and break it into micro-tasks anyone can do in seconds. Click yes or no. Tag a photo. Transcribe 3 seconds of audio. Each task pays pennies. But done at scale, they create massive value. Amazon Mechanical Turk is the classic example. It's a marketplace where businesses post tasks and Turkers around the world complete them. Most earn a few dollars an hour. But for the platform? It's a labor force without contracts, benefits, or responsibility. AI companies love this model. Before ChatGPT could generate language, someone had to label millions of examples. Who did that? Crowdsourced workers, often underpaid and invisible. Their microtasks became training data, the foundation of the entire system, but it goes beyond tech. CAPTCHA systems ask users to identify traffic lights or bicycles, and those answers train vision algorithms. You thought you were just proving you're human. You were working for free. The power of this model is in its scale and deniability. Workers are replaceable, decentralized, often anonymous. Platforms avoid labor laws. Businesses pay only for completed tasks. It's lean, fast, and disturbingly efficient. It transforms humans into components of a larger machine, paid just enough to keep clicking, but not enough to change their lives. And the more platforms automate, the more they need humans to train the automation, one click at a time. This isn't the future of work, it's the commodification of cognition at scale. Virtual landlords. You don't need to own land to be a landlord anymore, you just need attention. In the digital world, real estate isn't dirt, it's screen space, and someone owns it. The virtual landlord model is simple. Control a high-traffic digital environment, then rent out access to it. On websites, this looks like banner ads. On YouTube, it's pre-roll sponsorships. On mobile games, it's rewarded ads. But it goes deeper. Ever used a Chrome extension that shows beautiful backgrounds on new tabs? Someone owns that tab and sells ad space on it. Ever searched for something on Amazon and saw the top results were sponsored? That's not a store ranking. That's a landlord charging rent. The most famous virtual landlords? App stores. Apple and Google charge developers 15–30% of revenue just to live in their ecosystem. They don't make the apps. They don't own the code, but they own the road to the users, and they charge a toll. Some creators do it too. Own a popular Minecraft server? You can rent ad space or sell perks. Run a Discord with 50,000 members? You can charge access or feature brands. In the metaverse, people literally buy and rent virtual land parcels, hoping foot traffic turns into profit. It sounds absurd until you realize the model mirrors real life. The principle is the same: control space other people need and charge them for the right to be there. But the digital version is faster, unregulated, and sometimes invisible. You don't always know you're paying rent to someone who built nothing but owns everything that matters, your path to attention. In this economy, if you don't own space, you are the space. Pre-sale funding. What if your customers could fund your business before it even exists? That's the genius of pre-sale funding. You don't need investors. You don't need a product. You just need belief and a deadline. It started with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Creators pitched unfinished ideas: a cooler that charged your phone, a smartwatch that never shipped, a game that wasn't coded yet. People didn't care. They bought the story, not the product. But this model didn't stay in crowdfunding. It leaked everywhere. Tech companies now launch waitlists with paid tiers just for early access. Fashion brands run drops, where customers pay before the clothes are even sewn. Tesla collected over $1 billion in deposits for Cybertrucks long before they hit the road. That's not a sale. That's a no-interest loan from the public. Restaurants are even doing it, selling ticketed reservations months in advance, locking in revenue before buying ingredients. Why does this work? Because it flips risk. Instead of you betting on your product, they do. You get capital up front. They get emotional investment, and when people pay early, they don't just want the product, they want it to exist. That's powerful psychology, but there's a dark side. Projects can fail. Delays are common. Scams thrive in this space because customers have no leverage. They've already paid. Still, the model persists because it rewrites the timeline of capitalism. In this world, you sell the future, not the present. If they believe hard enough, they'll fund a fantasy. And that belief, that's your real product. Demand harvesting. Most businesses try to create demand. They advertise, persuade, and push until someone bites. But demand harvesting, that's different. You don't make people want something. You intercept them the moment they do. This model thrives in search engines, product reviews, comparison sites, and SEO-optimized blog posts. It's the business of catching intent, not creating it. Think of affiliate blogs, best wireless earbuds under $100, or product aggregators like Skyscanner, Kayak, or Honey. They're not making you want a vacation or a discount. They're showing up the moment you already do, and then collecting the toll. Google Ads, same thing. You search tax software, and every company starts bidding for that moment of need. Whoever shows up wins. And that click might be worth $10 or more because it's not just attention, it's readiness. This model doesn't just harvest demand, it optimizes it. Using data, timing, and targeting, businesses try to appear right when desire hits. They use cookies, email tracking, geolocation, and even weather data to guess what you'll want before you do. Amazon does it with recommended products. Uber Eats sends a push notification at 11:45 a.m. Even dating apps use surge pricing when loneliness peaks. It's disturbingly efficient. The goal isn't to convince you, it's to be waiting at the door when your need arrives. And once they master the art of harvesting, they don't need to plant anything at all. Business process outsourcing. At its core, BPO is a business model where companies pay others to run parts of their own business: customer support, payroll, IT services, accounting, data entry, logistics. Anything that isn't core competency gets outsourced. But here's the part most people miss. BPO isn't just about saving money. It's about turning internal cost centers into external markets. The call center in India, the HR processing firm in the Philippines, the data labeling warehouse in Kenya, those aren't just cheap labor. They're entire companies whose product is your business's internal function. In other words, BPO lets you turn inefficiency into a revenue stream for someone else. This isn't new. It's as old as civilization. Ancient empires outsourced tax collection to local intermediaries. The church outsourced education to universities. The military outsourced food and weapons to private contractors. But in the modern world, BPO became codified, scalable, and invisible. Today, a startup with 5 people in Silicon Valley may be operating as if they have a 500-person global team because the legal, operational, customer, and technical infrastructure is handled by silent partners across continents. What makes this model fascinating is that it transfers not just labor, but liability, knowledge, and power. Sometimes, the outsourcing partner becomes so central, they begin to dictate standards for the industry itself. In some countries, outsourced vendors for big tech now influence everything from local labor policy to telecom regulation. So when we talk about efficiency or scaling, we're often talking about outsourcing the complexity of reality itself. This isn't just a cost-saving trick. It's a model of meta-business. A company that exists to help other companies exist. And it raises deep questions. Who really owns the customer relationship? What happens when your core competency is just managing vendors? And who holds the keys to your system when the real work is happening somewhere else? Holding companies. A holding company doesn't sell anything. It doesn't make a product. It doesn't run a store. What it does is own. A holding company is a legal entity that owns other companies, and that's the business model: buying, holding, and strategically managing businesses without operating them directly. Think Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett doesn't run Coca-Cola, American Express, or Geico. But through his holding company, he collects their profits, steers their strategies, and benefits from their growth, all without having to make soda, issue credit, or underwrite insurance. This is a model of capital as control, not labor, not product, not even vision. And it's older than capitalism itself. Royal families did it with land. Empires did it with chartered companies. Modern corporations do it with shares. But here's what makes it so intellectually rich. A holding company is immune to industry collapse, diversified by design, and structured for tax and risk insulation. If one subsidiary crashes, the others stay afloat. If a lawsuit hits one brand, the core holding structure is untouched. Even more fascinating, many holding companies create subsidiaries just to optimize taxes, offload debt, or test new markets without reputational risk. It's a model of meta-control, not selling a product, but owning the infrastructure through which products are made and sold. And when a holding company owns other holding companies, you get financial fractals, a pyramid of ownership where no one seems to work, but money never stops flowing upward. Ghost kitchen networks. You open your delivery app. A new burger joint catches your eye. Cool branding, slick photos, great reviews. You order, it arrives. It's decent. But here's the catch. That restaurant doesn't exist. Ghost kitchens are food businesses with no storefront, no dining area, no waitstaff. They're delivery-only brands, sometimes dozens, operating out of the same industrial kitchen. And in many cases, they're all owned by the same company. One building, 10 fake restaurants. All the same food, just repackaged. It's not just about saving on rent. It's about multiplying perceived choice without increasing cost. You think you're choosing between options, but behind the scenes, the burger joint, the wing shop, and the vegan bowl brand are all the same kitchen, the same chefs, the same owner. Even celebrities have jumped in. Mr. Beast Burgers? That's a ghost kitchen. So are hundreds of TikTok famous food brands you've never heard of. The disturbing part? Ghost kitchens aren't always transparent. That local-looking brand might be backed by a global chain, algorithmically optimized for your zip code. And your neighborhood comfort food, it could be coming from a warehouse 40 minutes away. This model isn't about food, it's about branding at scale. Each new restaurant is just a new name, a new wrapper, designed to test what sells. So what looks like a food revolution might be a spreadsheet in disguise. Ghost kitchens don't feed communities. They feed platforms. Sunk cost models. You start small, maybe a $1 trial, or a $20 starter pack. It doesn't feel like a commitment. It feels like a test. But that's exactly the bait. Because the moment you spend anything, a psychological trap kicks in. You've invested. And now, you don't want that investment to go to waste. This is the sunk cost fallacy, a deeply irrational tendency to keep going just because you've already started. Businesses turn this into a model. They design products and systems where walking away feels like losing. That video course you bought but never finished. That game you spent hours grinding, but now feels like a job. That gym membership you never cancel because someday you'll use it. You're not staying for the value. You're staying to justify what you already spent. Even relationships with platforms can follow this model. A creator builds an audience on one app. Switching feels like starting over, so they stay even when they're being underpaid or mistreated. And it gets worse with incremental investment. $5 becomes $20, $20 becomes $100. And now the price of leaving feels higher than the price of continuing. Companies don't need to offer better value. They just need to make quitting feel like failure. The genius and the cruelty of the sunk cost model is this: they don't make you stay. You trap yourself. Status gatekeeping. You're not paying for the thing. You're paying to belong, to be seen, to be let in. Some business models don't sell a product or a service. They sell an identity. And the price tag isn't about value, it's about exclusivity. This is status gatekeeping, a model where the feeling of being above others is the product. From luxury clubs and black card memberships to $3,000 sneakers made in the same factory as 31s, the item isn't what you're buying. You're buying what it signals. Look at Supreme. Their $50 t-shirts aren't better quality. But drop them in ultra-limited quantities, stir up a waiting line, let celebrities wear them. Now you're not buying cotton, you're buying social capital. Or consider private members-only clubs like Soho House. People don't pay thousands a year for just the drinks and chairs. They pay to be in the room, to say, I belong here and you don't. In tech, this plays out too. Some apps launch with waitlists not to manage demand, but to create the illusion of status. The less accessible it is, the more people want it. And in some cases, the product doesn't even exist yet, just the list of who's allowed in when it does. Status gatekeeping turns insecurity into revenue. You're not just selling a product, you're selling a hierarchy. And people will pay obscene amounts just to be one rung higher. Loyalty as addiction. You think you're being rewarded, but you're actually being trained. Welcome to the loyalty model, not as a thank you but as behavioral control. Airlines do it best. Frequent flyer miles sound like perks, but they change how you fly. You'll take worse routes, fly more often, even spend more just to keep your status. Because once you hit gold, you fear going back to silver, and that fear keeps you flying with them. Coffee shops give you every 10th drink free. Sounds innocent. But you'll walk past better cafes, pay more and drink when you're not even thirsty, just to get closer to that stamp. That's not loyalty. That's compulsion. Even worse, the points are fictional. They're not money. They're in-system credits you can't transfer or sell. They create value only inside the platform, and only if you keep playing the game. The more you earn, the more you have to lose. Which means the sunk cost gets higher. And walking away feels like throwing away value, even if you're wasting money to get it. Loyalty programs turn customers into gamblers. They change your choices, timing, spending, even your identity. You're not just buying coffee, you're a gold member. Not just shopping, you're a VIP Tier 3. The genius is this: you're hooked on something you think you control. But the real product is your predictability. Wholesale subscription clubs. Imagine walking into a store, and they say, "You can't shop here unless you pay us first." That's not a scam. That's Costco, Sam's Club, and every wholesale subscription club on the planet. It's a model where the store charges you for the right to spend money, and somehow you thank them for it. Why does it work? Because it flips the psychology. Now you feel like an insider. You paid the entry fee, so you must be getting a deal, right? That belief keeps you buying more often, and in bigger quantities. They seem like savings, until you're storing 36 rolls of toilet paper in your kitchen and buying 5 gallons of ketchup you'll never finish. The real trick is this: the profit isn't in the goods, it's in the membership fee. That predictable, recurring revenue creates stability. Even if you don't buy anything that month, your wallet already contributed. And here's the kicker: most people don't cancel. Because canceling means admitting you're not getting your money's worth. So you go back, again and again, just to feel the subscription was justified. It's not just a warehouse model, it's a status model wrapped in savings. You're part of a tribe now, the smart shoppers. But in reality, you've been converted into guaranteed income. This isn't about discounts, it's about behavior engineering. Monetized moderation. In most communities, moderation is a cost. You hire people to keep the peace, filter out abuse, enforce rules. But what if you could flip that into a revenue stream? Enter monetized moderation, where control, censorship, and even punishment become part of the business model. On platforms like Reddit, Meta, or Discord communities, moderation tools are increasingly paywalled. You want advanced filters, access controls, analytics, you pay. In live streams, users pay to silence others, boost their own visibility, or escape slow mode. Even being able to report effectively or escalate a concern can be limited by your account tier. And in games, this gets darker. Players pay to unban themselves or buy good behavior badges to repair a reputation. The punishment becomes a monetization lever, not a deterrent. And here's the trick: the more chaotic the space becomes, the more valuable control becomes. So platforms quietly tolerate dysfunction because it increases the demand for paid moderation tools. The worst part? This model outsources the labor. Volunteers become unpaid moderators, doing the work that props up billion-dollar companies. Their reward? Status. Maybe a badge. But behind the curtain, their efforts are feeding a machine that profits from dysfunction. Monetized moderation turns trust into a product and justice into a feature upgrade. And when peace costs extra, the chaos becomes profitable. Brand-hosted marketplaces. Most companies sell products. Smart companies sell platforms. But the most powerful companies, they sell everyone else's products too. Welcome to brand-hosted marketplaces, where a company builds the mall and leases out every store inside it. Amazon doesn't just sell its own goods. Over 60% of its sales come from third-party sellers. But it controls the payment system, the logistics, the ad space, the ranking algorithm, and takes a cut at every level. Same with Apple. Every app in the App Store pays a tax. Every update flows through Apple's review. You build the value, but they own the gate. And it goes beyond tech. Think of Goop's lifestyle empire. It started as content. Then came Goop-branded products. It's a full marketplace for dozens of brands, carefully curated, hosted, and taxed by Goop itself. The genius here is outsourcing inventory risk while capturing ecosystem value. Let others do the work. You just monetize the flow. Even brands like Nike are inching in, hosting creator-designed shoes, custom gear, and digital tokens inside their own channels. It's not just about making a sale, it's about building a world and charging rent to exist inside it. The product becomes secondary. The platform is the product, and once you're inside, you can't sell without them. Data-driven R&D loops. In the past, research and development was slow, expensive, and uncertain. You built prototypes, ran studies, guessed what might work, then crossed your fingers. The customer tells you what to build while paying you to figure it out. Welcome to the data-driven R&D loop. Every click, every view, every abandoned cart becomes a live experiment. Platforms like Netflix don't just release shows. They test thumbnails, titles, and plot structures across demographics to see what hooks people. Then they greenlight future content based on behavioral data. Fast fashion giants like Shein launch thousands of micro-designs per week, just a few samples each. Whichever gets clicks, likes, and pre-orders. That's what gets mass-produced. Everything else vanishes. The risk of failure is offloaded to the data, and the customer becomes the guinea pig. Even food delivery apps use A/B testing on menu layouts, pricing, bundles, and photo angles to see what sells best, not for one restaurant but across millions of users in real time. And here's the real kicker. This loop makes you smarter the bigger you get. More users, more data, better products, more users. It's self-optimizing and self-funding. You don't have to bet on what people want. You just let the numbers tell you after they've already paid you to run the test. The R&D department has left the lab. It now lives in your phone. Illusion of scarcity. Scarcity drives desire. But what if the scarcity isn't real? That's the model. Think of limited drops. A fashion brand releases only 100 units of a jacket, not because they can't make more, but because they know 100 creates urgency, status, and artificial rarity. Concert tickets sell out in minutes, but many are held back for resale at inflated prices. Luxury brands limit supply to manufacture exclusivity, not because they lack capacity and NFTs. Scarcity is the entire point. Even when the product is infinitely reproducible, scarcity used to mean physical constraint. Gold is rare because nature made it rare. But now, scarcity is often a choice, a design decision to make the buyer feel like they're chasing something scarce, even when supply is limitless behind the scenes. This creates what economists call manufactured demand. When customers believe something is hard to get, they'll act fast, spend more, and talk about it like it's valuable, even when it isn't. It's not just about selling products. It's about engineering psychology. And it works because your brain evolved in a world where scarcity meant survival. So it reacts urgently when something seems rare, which makes this model dangerous. Because people aren't reacting to the product. They're reacting to the illusion. Conglomerate Synergy. This isn't just about owning different companies. It's about owning the right companies that, when combined, feed each other in a closed loop. A media empire that owns the news, the ads, the influencers, the publishing rights, the video streaming platform, even the camera company that makes the hardware. That's a conglomerate synergy. Samsung is a textbook case. It's not just electronics. It builds the ships, the insurance, the finance arm, the semiconductors, the advertising agency, the construction companies that build its own skyscrapers. It can fund, make, insure, market, and deliver a product, all inside its own web. The genius of this model is internal value circulation. One arm of the business pays another arm. Profits aren't lost to external vendors. They're kept inside the system, compounding power. It's also defensive. If external supply chains collapse, the company survives. If prices rise, it can undercut competitors because it controls the means of production. Conglomerates often operate quietly, under multiple brand names. You might not realize that the movie you watched, the merch you bought, the news article you read, and the insurance you used all flow back to the same parent company. This model isn't sexy, it's not new, but it's one of the most powerful, invisible engines of global business. And once you recognize the signs, you start seeing it everywhere. The loyalty points trap. At first it looks like a gift. Points, rewards, miles. You bought something, and now you get something extra. A free drink, a discount next time, a free flight if you just keep spending. But loyalty programs aren't just bonuses. They're an entire business model, one that quietly shifts your behavior while locking you into someone else's ecosystem. Every time you earn points, you're investing in a currency that only one company controls. You can't spend it anywhere else. You can't exchange it for real money. And if you stop using the service, that wealth just disappears. Which means you're now more likely to stick around, not because the product is better, but because leaving would mean losing what you've already earned. That's not just retention, that's psychological sunk cost, but it goes deeper. In industries like airlines, loyalty points are worth billions. In fact, some airlines make more profit from selling points to credit card companies than from actual flights. That's right. Your miles aren't just a customer perk, they're a financial asset being traded behind the scenes. And the value of those points, that's entirely made up. Companies can devalue them overnight, change the rules, or require more points for the same rewards. They're the central bank, and you're just holding the funny money. Loyalty points aren't rewards. They're behavioral chains, disguised as gifts, and the more you earn, the harder they are to walk away from. The waiting list. Illusion. Imagine being told you can't buy something. Not yet. You have to wait. You have to apply. You're number 12, 437 on the list, and suddenly, you want it more. Waiting lists flip the power dynamic. They create desire through denial. If something is hard to get, it must be valuable. If access is restricted, it must be elite. If people are lining up, maybe you should too. This model has been used by everything from luxury fashion to tech startups. Think Clubhouse's explosive growth, not because the product was revolutionary, but because you needed an invite. Or those minimalist credit cards that promised exclusivity, status, and a 2-week application process just to get in. And here's the trick. The product doesn't have to be good. It just has to be scarce. Or rather, feel scarce. Even artificial waiting lists work. Companies deliberately throttle supply, create fake queues, or release in small batches, not to meet demand but to create it. Why? Because humans are wired to value things more when they're withheld. It's called psychological reactance. The more you feel your freedom to choose is being limited, the more you want it. That's why a waitlist often performs better than an add to cart button. You think you're standing in line for something valuable, but often the line is the product. Paying to stop paying. There's one business model more disturbing than all the rest. It's when companies realize they can make money without giving you anything at all. It's not a scam. It's legal. It's just invisible extraction, and it's everywhere. You sign up for a gym. But the real money doesn't come from your workouts. It comes from you not going. They designed the experience to be slightly inconvenient. Just enough friction to keep you away, not enough to make you cancel. That's profit. Or worse, you try to cancel and discover the final form of capitalism, paying to stop paying. The cancellation fee economy. Streaming services, software platforms, airline bookings, dating apps, trial periods, all engineered so that leaving becomes harder than staying. You don't just pay for the product, you pay for your own forgetfulness, your own inertia. That's not a bug. That's the model. They profit from your lack of resistance. They know the psychology. The pain of a small recurring charge fades faster than the friction of stopping it. So they let you keep bleeding slowly, silently. You're not the customer anymore. You're the crop. And the harvest happens every month. This is where the future of business isn't about making something better. It's about making something harder to quit. And once that idea takes hold, the entire economy shifts, not to innovation, but to extraction. We used to buy things. Now we rent access to fragments of value under the illusion of ownership. And if you're not paying attention, you won't realize you're still paying at all. You've just seen how 100 business models shape everything around you. But the most dangerous ones are the ones you didn't notice. Because the real product isn't always what's sold. Sometimes it's you. If this made you think differently, let us know in the comments. And if you want more, you know where to find us.